Chapter 1. The Gifted Prodigy Li Zai. The immortal Qin is coming to Yuzhou City. In the Great Shang Dynasty, a piece of news from an unknown source ignited the entire city of Yuzhou. Qin, the immortal? That sword fairy of the plum blossom? What brings her to Yuzhou City? Surely, she is here to accept disciples. For days on end, whether it be the storytellers or the city's elite, one name has dominated the discourse. Qin and I. To speak of Qin Nai is to delve into an endless narrative of beauty, strength, and unparalleled prowess. Now, with such a celestial figure seeking to take on a personal disciple, how could it not incite fervor among the populace? Yet, to become a disciple of Qin Nai is not a mere aspiration. It requires a level of genius that appears once in a century, something many would not dare to even dream of. For the past 3 months, Qin Nai has traversed numerous cities within the Shang Dynasty, yet she has yet to find a suitable candidate. Her visit to Yuzhou City is solely for one individual, a rumored unparalleled prodigy. In the realm of the 9 provinces, when speaking of the exceptional talents of the younger generation, 5 individuals must be mentioned. The Buddha's disciple Sanzong of the Buddhist sect, the divine child Yin Xiaoyu for the divine hall, the holy maiden Huoliner of the Zhuge sect, and our own 4th Prince Mu Bai of the Great Shang Dynasty. Alas, these 4 have already found their masters. Within the grandest tavern in Yuzhou City, a storyteller wielding a folding fan spoke passionately, as numerous patrons, mostly traveling merchants, seeking respite and a glimpse into local customs, listened with rapt attention. Storyteller, you just mentioned 5 individuals, yet you've only named 4, interjected a man from a nearby table. Patience, replied the storyteller, taking a sip of tea. Do you know who the greatest merchant house in the Great Shang Dynasty is? Who doesn't know? The Li family of Yuzhou, renowned for their wealth that rivals nations. What does that have to do with your tale? The man responded, slightly annoyed. Indeed, it bears great significance, the storyteller said, a knowing smile gracing his features. The head of the Li family, Li Baiwan, has a son named Li Zai, a prodigy whose talents rival those of Sanzong and Yin Xiaoyu. You're just boasting, scoffed a scholar at another table. What kind of person are Sanzong and Yin Xiaoyu? How can that Li Zai compare to them? I'm not speaking idly, the storyteller retorted disdainfully. Have you heard of the sword maniac? The storyteller shot a scornful glance at the scholar. It is said that when the sword maniac visited Yuzhou City recently, Li Baiwan sought to have his son apprentice under him. However, upon meeting Li Zai, the sword maniac outright refused, delivering but a single sentence. At this juncture, the storyteller deliberately paused, creating a tantalizing suspense. The listeners were instantly captivated, their curiosity piqued. The sword maniac was indeed a renowned master of swordsmanship in the Shang Dynasty, famed for his love of both wine and swordplay. A man from the adjacent table grew impatient. Raising his voice, "Stop teasing us." What did the sword maniac say? The scholar, too, perked up his ears, eagerly awaiting the answer. The storyteller, sensing that the audience's curiosity had been piqued, took a sip of tea and slowly remarked, "The sword enthusiast claims that the scion of the Li family possesses the bearing of a sword immortal. My humble sword is unworthy to be his master." With these words, a stir arose among the crowd. Outside the tavern, a young man clad in resplendent garments halted upon hearing the discourse within. "Your Highness, these storytellers are but charlatans seeking to captivate the masses. The Li family is of merchant lineage. How could they possibly produce any swordsmanship prodigy? When Master Qin, the sword immortal, arrives in Yuzhou, your martial prowess will surely allow you to become his disciple," a servant beside the elegantly dressed young man extolled. The young man shook his head and replied, "He speaks no falsehood. The sword enthusiast indeed uttered such words. Hence, I have journeyed to Yuzhou, firstly to seek the tutelage of Master Qin, and secondly to ascertain whether the Li family sole heir is truly as remarkable as the rumors suggest." Within the tavern, the storyteller continued his eloquent narration, and similar tales have begun to circulate from Yuzhou over the past few days, spreading further afield and growing increasingly fantastical. Did you know that the Li family has a son named Li Zai? It is said he possesses the demeanor of a sword immortal, so much so that even the sword enthusiast hesitates to take him as a disciple, fearing to misguide a true talent of this age. Is that so? I heard that Li Zai was born with a sword in hand during his birth. Celestial phenomena manifested radiant purple clouds and sword energy soaring into the heavens. Is that truly the case? How extraordinary! It is indeed true. I have also heard that Li Zai is the strongest prodigy of our time, having created an unparalleled sword technique at the tender age of 10, known as the Taiji. It is said that when this technique was first perfected, the winds and thunder roared, and celestial phenomena erupted. What you know is merely commonplace. I have heard that not long ago, Li Zai comprehended an extraordinary sword intent, leveling a mountain with a single stroke, causing even the reclusive paragons to take notice. It was for this reason that the Plum Blossom Sword Immortal descended to Yuzhou to take him as a disciple. That pales in comparison. I have heard that Li Zai is on the verge of ascension, poised to attain the supreme sword path. From one rumor springs another, and in just 3 short months, tales originating from Yuzhou grew ever more absurd, transforming Li Zai from a figure of legendary prowess to one on the cusp of celestial ascension, leaving the uninformed public astounded. Yet, regardless of how far-fetched the rumors became, one undeniable truth remained. Li Zai had indeed risen to fame, and that fame burned brightly. At the very heart of these rumors lay the Li Manor in Yuzhou, a grand estate rivaling that of an imperial court. It was more akin to a city than merely a residence. The Li Manor was so vast that once one entered, discerning direction became a challenge. The wealth of the Li family was said to rival that of nations, a claim not made lightly. It was speculated that the fortune controlled by the Li family surpassed even that of the grand merchant nation's treasury. While the Li family had long been engaged in commerce and amassed staggering wealth, their true transformation to their current stature had occurred only in the past decade or so. Perfumes, glassware, mirrors, and soaps. Over the course of 10 years, an array of innovative and immensely popular products had emerged from the Li family's shops, rapidly accumulating wealth to the point of being unparalleled. Few knew how the Li family was able to develop such novel items, but the family itself was well aware. Everything stemmed from the birth of the young master. Li Zai, born with an extraordinary destiny, invented many peculiar contraptions that had never before graced this world, thereby elevating the Li family's commercial empire to new heights. However, despite being raised with a silver spoon in his mouth and expected to live a carefree life, Li Zai seemed rather melancholic, even troubled. In the rear courtyard of the Li residence, a youth of around 16 or 17 sat in a pavilion at the center of a lake, fishing while lost in thought. The young man possessed an exquisite appearance, adorned in fine attire woven with golden threads and silver lines, embellished with gold and jade, unmistakable scion of affluence. To be blunt, he exemplified the quintessential nouveau riche. This youth was none other than Li Zai, whose name resonated throughout Yuzhou City and even the entire great merchants dynasty. Old Li, you wouldn't go back on your word regarding the 10 jars of Yulin, would you? On the riverbank, a disheveled, drunken old man cast a sidelong glance at the rotund, middle-aged man beside him. Beside the shabby elder lay a sword, casually placed, which bore the semblance of a renowned blade. This old man, a sword enthusiast known as Zhang, had a name long forgotten. Those familiar with him often referred to him as Old Zhang or Zhang the Disheveled. Though his appearance was unkempt and he was a notorious drinker, none could deny that this scruffy elder was a formidable figure of great repute. Next to him, the portly middle-aged man, adorned in opulence, was none other than Li Zai's father, Li Million. If Li Zai still retained a hint of the noble demeanor, Li Million was the epitome of a vulgar nouveau riche. Draped in the luxurious cloud brocade of the southern regions, wearing jade from the north, seated upon a tiger bone chair from the western territories, and clutching a black pearl from the eastern sea, his ensemble was worth no less than 10,000 gold. Had he not already reached his limit, Li Million would have donned every piece of gold and jade he possessed, fearing that others might overlook his wealth. Of course not, Li Million replied with a smile upon hearing the old man's inquiry. Old Zhang, do you think Qin Ana would believe the rumors circulating in the city? Who knows? Don't ask me, Zhang the Disheveled replied, taking a swig from his wine flask. I have done what you asked. Whether she believes it or not is beyond my concern. Alas, Li Million sighed, gazing with a furrowed brow at his solitary son in the pavilion. Old Zhang, do you truly believe my son lacks the talent for martial arts? Indeed, Zhang the Disheveled answered with surprising decisiveness. At the lake's center, within the pavilion, Li Zai seemed to have overheard something, turning to glance at the old man on the bank. Old Zhang, having lived long and seen much, Do you know of any miraculous techniques or elixirs that could transform someone and bestow upon them the genius of martial arts? Ha! Zhang the Disheveled set down his flask and replied, There are no techniques, but there is a method. Would you like to hear it? What method? Both Li Zai and Li Million inquired with newfound interest. Dreaming, Zhang the Disheveled stated nonchalantly. Li Zai was rendered speechless. Fear not. Young one, that Zhang Lada cast a glance at the former and remarked, My inability to teach you martial arts does not imply that Qin Aina is incapable. Her realm surpasses mine, and her insights are equally profound. Perhaps she possesses a solution, provided you can persuade her to take you as her disciple. That is a valid point, Li Zai concurred, nodding appreciatively. She is already a sword immortal. She must have some extraordinary abilities that others lack. I feel that I have failed as a father. Li Baiwan expressed his guilt earnestly. In the center of the lake, Li Zai stood at the bow of a small boat, hands clasped behind his back, while a beautiful maid skillfully rowed behind him, creating a picturesque scene of talent and beauty akin to a celestial painting. On the shore, Zhang Lada observed Li Zai in the boat and shook his head. This young man, it seems, possesses little beyond appearances. Regret washed over him as he pondered whether it was worth it to utter such words for the sake of 10 jars of drunken floral brew. How foolish to jeopardize one's reputation. As the boat approached the shore, Li Zai disembarked and gently patted Li Baiwan on the shoulder, whispering, It's all right. Upon hearing Li Zai's comforting words, Li Baiwan felt increasingly remorseful, sighing, I am a useless father, and I have let you down. Beyond financial support, I can offer you nothing. Father, I do not blame you, Li Zai replied, his gaze melancholic as he looked out over the lake. Money can indeed influence even the most obstinate, did not old Zhang relent? When old Qin arrives, we shall offer whatever she desires. If that fails, we shall overwhelm her with wealth, and I am certain she will be swayed. Chapter 2. The pure and immaculate Qin Aina. 3 days later, beyond the city of Yuzhou, a formidable surge of sword energy radiated outward, extending 30 yards to the east. Shortly thereafter, a flurry of plum blossoms swirled through the air, heralding the arrival of a graceful figure gliding upon her sword, emanating an extraordinary presence and majesty. Behold, the plum blossom sword immortal has arrived. Within the city of Yuzhou, the citizens gazed in awe and reverence at the ethereal figure approaching on her sword. As the gentle breeze caressed the scene, the blossoms scattered, and Qin Aina descended with elegance, sheathing her ancient sword. Before her stood a woman reminiscent of an otherworldly fairy. Her features so exquisite they appeared almost surreal. Dressed in a pristine white gown, she seemed untouched by the dust of the earth, embodying purity and flawlessness. Fairy, I adore you. You are my idol. Amidst the vibrant throng, a somewhat jaded Li Zai, upon witnessing the grand entrance of Qin Aina, whimsically chose to partake as an additional performer, flinging his arms wide and exclaiming with unrestrained enthusiasm. Perhaps his exuberance was excessively pronounced, for the surrounding populace turned their gaze upon him, their faces etched with disbelief, instinctively retreating a step. Thus, Li Zai emerged as the most striking figure within the crowd. Fairy, I adore. As he became acutely aware of the sudden hush that enveloped the scene, his expression faltered, and he struggled to swallow the final word. What had gone awry? Why had no one echoed his cheer? Was this not the customary manner in which illustrious figures made their entrance? He was merely indulging in the spirit of the moment. Wasn't that the son of Li Million? How had he devolved into such a fool? I was completely unaware that Li Million's son could be considered a simpleton. You all fail to comprehend. This young Master Li is, in fact, a prodigy. Geniuses frequently exhibit eccentricities. This is merely an aspect of his character. Amidst the throng, some individuals recognized Li Zai, engaging in whispered conversations, some filled with confusion, others with admiration. Naturally, those showering him with accolades were clearly jesting. Li Zai, feeling utterly bewildered, chose to shield his face and discreetly withdrew, enveloped in embarrassment. What a humiliation! At the forefront of the crowd, Qin Aina cast a thoughtful gaze towards the retreating Li Zai, curiosity flickering in her eyes. A fool? Upon returning to the Li residence, Li Zai discovered Zhang Lada by the lakeside in the rear courtyard, lost in meditation with his eyes closed. Without opening them, Zhang inquired. Did you see her? Li Zai, sheepishly rubbing his nose, replied, I did. Well, does Qin Ana still deserve the title of your master? Zhang Lada spoke with an air of indifference. Li Ziya pausa, examining the elderly man for a protracted moment before inquiring, Old Zhang, are you jesting with me? Indeed, Zhang Lada nodded. Old man Zhang Yu, who would barter your integrity for a mere 10 jars of intoxicating flower brew, dare to deride others. With a smirk, Li Zai took a seat beside the old man and queried, Old Zhang, do you genuinely believe that the young Qin is as formidable as you profess? Martial prowess cannot be exclusively gauged by age, Zhang Lada replied serenely, his eyes still closed. One must concede that there are individuals in this world known as prodigies. And Qin Ana epitomizes such exceptional talent. How enviable, Li Zai remarked with a hint of nostalgia. Each individual possesses their unique strengths and weaknesses. One cannot impose their will upon reality. You need not grasp your desires too tightly, Zhang Lada counseled. What are my strengths? Li Ziya inquired. Zhang Lada fell into silence. And after a considerable pause, he finally articulated, You are indeed quite presentable, aptly described as beautiful on the exterior. Old Zhang, your talent for insult has truly reached unprecedented heights. I am genuinely impressed, Li Zai replied with a forced smile, fully cognizant that Zhang's words concealed a more profound affront. Am I mistaken, venerable one? Zhang Lada remarked nonchalantly. I have heard that a young maid from the manor graced your chamber last night. So, is your virtue still unblemished? Begone, Li Zai retorted with irritation. It is not my fault that I possess an appealing appearance. It burdens me as well. That assertion is indeed rather vexing. Zhang Lada commented. Old Zhang, I have come to a resolution, Li Zai suddenly declared, sitting up straight with determination gleaming in his eyes. I must become an apprentice under Old Qin, embark on the path of martial arts, and then I shall achieve renown across the land, becoming invincible. Zhang Lada opened his eyes and scrutinized the young man before him, pondering for a moment before inquiring, Are you serious? Of course, Li Zai affirmed with a nod. Youth is indeed a blessing, Zhang Lada mused. Even daydreams are articulated with such fervor. Li Zai chose to disregard the old man's jesting. Young master, the master is calling for you. A servant approached hurriedly, speaking with urgency. What is it? Li Zai inquired. The sword immortal, the plum blossom sword immortal has arrived. The servant replied. Oh, Old Qin? Li Zai stood up in astonishment, exclaiming, so soon. With that, he hastened towards the front courtyard. Indeed, the youth often lacked patience, Zhang Lada observed wisely, closing his eyes once more by the lakeside. In the front courtyard, within the opulent hall, Li Baimian, exhibiting a rather servile demeanor, catered to Qin Ana. For the sake of his son's apprenticeship, his pride was of little significance. Fairy, does this tea please your discerning palate? I possess some exquisite cloud mist tea here. Would you care for a glass of wine? I have a decade-old drunken flower brew and a 20-year-old daughter's red. As Li Zai entered the grand hall and witnessed his father's obsequious conduct, he felt an overwhelming desire to bury him beneath the floorboards. How mortifying! Fairy, after such an arduous journey, you must be fatigued. I have acquired a few massage techniques from the physician in the manor. May I offer my assistance in alleviating your weariness? Li Zai approached with alacrity, his smile radiant as a blossoming flower. No, thank you, Qin Ana responded, unperturbed by the father-son duo's efforts to win her favor. Her demeanor remained indifferent. I trust you are cognizant of my purpose here. My criteria for accepting disciples are quite straightforward. Succeed in my test, and you may become my apprentice. What test? Li Zai inquired, his curiosity piqued. Li Baimian leaned in closer, straining to catch every word. Do not obstruct my view. Your visage is too expansive, Li Zai remarked, pushing his father's face away in mild irritation. Li Baimian chuckled sheepishly and retreated a few steps. There are 3 tasks, Qin Ana declared, casting a glance at the peculiarly interacting father and son. Her voice remained serene as she continued, Complete these 3 tasks, and I shall recognize that you have successfully passed the trial. 3 tasks? Li Zai's thoughts sharpened at the realization. Such a figure indicated that Old Qin was not easily misled. Naturally, you will not be obliged to complete all 3 tasks at once. I am here to convey the details of your first trial, Qin Ana stated as she rose, her demeanor poised. You have one day to either discover or create a sword, one that is uniquely fashioned and remarkable. With that, Qin Ana offered no further explanation and gracefully departed from the main hall. Within, the father and son exchanged glances, their expressions differing. Is old Qin being indulgent? Li Zai mused aloud, confusion etched upon his visage. Who was unaware of his father's affluence? A single sword was but a mere trifle. He could easily acquire 1,000. Could there be a hidden agenda? Qin Xianzi insisted that it must be exquisitely crafted, while Li Baiwan expressed his concerns with a subtle note of apprehension. Li Zai cast a scornful glance in his direction. Father, must you be so gullible? The phrase exquisitely crafted and extraordinary resembles an open-ended inquiry. The validity of the response rests entirely with old Qin. At that moment, Li Zai was suddenly reminded of an urgent matter and inquired, by the way, Father, did you happen to offer any silver to old Qin upon her arrival? My memory eludes me, lamented Li Baiwan, striking his thigh in frustration. I was so engrossed in entertaining Qin Xianzi that I completely overlooked it. Old Li, how could you neglect something so fundamental? Li Zai exclaimed, his exasperation palpable. Quickly, dispatch someone to ascertain old Qin's whereabouts and deliver some silver. There is no need for further investigation. I dispatched an individual to shadow her the moment she entered the city. Just then, a striking young woman with a graceful figure entered the hall, offering a respectful greeting to Li Baiwan, the foster father. Young Wei, Li Zai responded with immediate delight, declaring, You are exceptional, always reliable, unlike my father, who is utterly untrustworthy. A gentle smile adorned Li Youwei's lips as she softly remarked, Little brother, you possess exquisite taste. That Qin Ana is indeed captivating, and her physique suggests she is quite capable of motherhood. First, secure her as a disciple, then capture her heart, a shrewd strategy. Li Ziya. Li Baiwan. Such audacious words. Young Wei, Li Zai hastily redirected the conversation. You mentioned you have been tracking old Qin. Have you uncovered her whereabouts? To the west of the city, at the Yulai Inn, one of our family establishments. It is nothing particularly remarkable, save for one aspect. It is rather costly. This suggests that Qin Xianzi is an individual who prioritizes quality, as Li Youwei elucidated. Thus, it ought to be feasible. Father, did you perceive that? Li Zai swiftly turned to him, commanding, Pray, prepare a present without delay. It must be of great value. The more opulent, the better. We wish for old Qin to perceive our earnestness. I shall attend to it at once, he replied, with a strained smile. Li Baiwan exited the hall to make the necessary arrangements. Upon witnessing his father's departure, Li Zai cast a glance back at his elder sister within the hall and remarked with a smile, Sister Youwei, I must trouble you to convey the gifts to old Qin later. I harbor reservations about entrusting this task to anyone else. Indeed, Li Youwei responded softly, nodding. My younger brother's affairs are of utmost significance to the Li household. As the sun dipped below the horizon, enveloping the surroundings in a warm glow, Li Youwei made her solitary way to the Yulai Inn. She knocked at the door, which was answered by Qin Ana. I am Li Youwei, the elder sister of Li Zai, she stated directly as she introduced herself. What brings you here? Inquired Qin Ana. Li Youwei stepped forward, forgoing pleasantries, and placed her parcel upon the ground, unveiling 3 exquisite boxes which she proceeded to open, one after the other. The East Sea Night Pearl, extracted from the profound depths of the East Sea, hold a worth of 100,000 gold coins. The heavenly silkworm armor, impervious to both blade and flame, possesses a value of 1,000,000 gold coins. The fish intestine sword, a treasure of immeasurable worth, once belonging to the Duke of Wei in ancient times, stands unparalleled. Before taking her leave, after revealing these 3 earthly treasures, Li Youwei turned back to inquire, Does the fairy have any counsel? Qin Ana paused in silence for a moment before replying, To your utmost. Li Youwei nodded, refraining from further questions, and departed. As night descended, Li Zai stood in the courtyard, gazing up at the star-studded sky, when inspiration suddenly struck him. Ah, with wealth, one can command even spirits to grind grain. Indeed, with riches, one can compel the mill to serve the ethereal. Truly, my son is a remarkable prodigy, Within the confines of the chamber, Li Baiwan gazed through the window at his son, pride emanating from his countenance. The following day, at the designated hour, all eyes were focused upon them as plum blossoms fluttered through the air. The fairy appeared, gliding gracefully upon her sword, an ethereal being untouched by the dust of the earth. She seemed as though a snow fairy had descended upon the mortal realm, flawless, transcendent, and as pure as jade. In the grand hall, Li Zai presented a sword wrought entirely of gold, extending it towards her. Its resplendent brilliance was a sight to behold. Qin Aina accepted the golden sword, contemplating it for an extended moment before nodding in tranquil approval, declaring, "Well done." The prowess of a sword cultivator resides not in the sword itself, but in the cultivation. In the highest realm, even the falling petals may serve as a sword. To become overly fixated on external objects leads one down a lesser path. Your response is commendable. You have succeeded. Li Baiwan. Li Zai. Chapter 3. The innate purity of Li Yuwei having adeptly traversed the initial trial, the atmosphere was both relaxed and contemplative. Li Zai would not concede to having offered gifts, nor would Qin Aina acknowledge that her leniency was a result of receiving them. As twilight descended, Qin Aina took her leave, revealing the second challenge before her departure, to devise a new sword technique within a single day. It was a question seemingly crafted for simplicity. Upon hearing this, Li Zai merely uttered 3 words. Even the denizens of Yuzhou City buzzed with tales of how he had created a sword technique at the tender age of 10, named Tai Chi. This challenge was nothing more than a trivial formality. Old Qin had exerted considerable effort to facilitate the endeavor. "My son, are you confident?" Li Baiwan inquired with palpable excitement, observing his son's serene composure. With unwavering certainty, Li Zai nonchalantly waved his hand and retreated to the backyard to resume his fishing. Is it accomplished? In the serene backyard, adjacent to the lakeside, Zhang Lada lingered in a state of tranquil repose, his eyes gently closed, until he perceived the presence of Li Zai and inquired, "Has the time elapsed?" Indeed, Li Zai nodded in confirmation. "Is it solely upon that fractured sword, wrought from gold?" This time, it was Zhang Lada who appeared taken aback, his eyes fluttering open as he posed the question. "Certainly, it is not so straightforward," Li Zai remarked with a smile that failed to reach his eyes. "Yesterday, Sister Yue bestowed upon Old Qin a luminous pearl from the East Sea, a suit of silk armor, and that very fish intestine sword. My esteemed family has undeniably invested a significant fortune this time." The fish intestine sword? Zhang Lada sat up abruptly, taken aback. "So, the fish intestine sword indeed resides within the Li Manor? Where else could it possibly be?" Li Zai picked up a pebble and cast it into the glistening lake. "If we do not present some coveted treasures, how could Old Qin ever relent?" Truly impressive indeed. Zhang Lada was genuinely in awe, contemplating, indeed, money can move mountains, and Qin Aina, such an extraordinary figure, is not impervious to the allure of affluence. "We are all merely human. Why feign purity?" Li Zai smiled. "Old Qin is undoubtedly an extraordinary individual. Thus, our proposal must be equally remarkable. But what does the second trial entail?" Zhang Lada inquired with intrigue. "To create a comprehensive sword technique within a single day," Li Zai replied. Zhang Lada fell into silence. Perhaps he had previously harbored some doubts, but now he was convinced that Qin Aina was indeed being lenient. "I do not comprehend." Zhang Lada gazed at the shimmering surface of the lake. "Qin Aina has always cherished a reputation. Does she not fear that, ultimately, she may take on an unworthy disciple, thereby tarnishing her illustrious name? She certainly harbors such fears. Otherwise, why would she have journeyed across half of the great Shang dynasty without arriving at a conclusion?" Li Zai chuckled softly. "The effort I expended to sow rumors was not merely a frivolous squandering of resources." "And what of it?" Zhang Lada furrowed her brow. "Qin Aina would not be easily persuaded by mere gossip to accept your identity as the fabled prodigy. Her arrival indicates her belief, at least to some extent." Li Zai commented with an enigmatic smile. "Old Zhang, you seem to overlook the essence of psychological suggestion. Why have countless foolish monarchs existed throughout history? Is it truly that they are incapable of distinguishing right from wrong? Certainly not. They are influenced by the calumnies of treacherous ministers and the murmurs of favored concubines. Oftentimes, disbelief can paradoxically give rise to belief. At this moment, Li Zai picked up another stone, casting it once more into the lake. In truth, the challenge posed by Old Qin today has already been shaped by the prevailing rumors. To forge a complete sword technique within a single day is a task that would prove daunting even for a swordmaster. Old Qin, harboring doubts, naturally seeks to ascertain its authenticity. If it holds true, a talent as remarkable as mine, exhibiting such profound understanding, would undoubtedly merit acceptance as a disciple. Beside him, Zhang Lada listened intently to the young man's words, falling into deep contemplation. After a considerable pause, he finally spoke. "Young man, I must confess, I previously underestimated you. Your strengths extend far beyond mere appearances and lineage. This lad possesses an extraordinary aptitude for discerning the hearts of others. It is not Qin Ana who is being lenient, but rather this young man who skillfully guides her to do so. In truth, old Zhang, you have not genuinely underestimated me." Li Zai chuckled softly and remarked, "Most matters in this world can be resolved with wealth. For those that cannot, I still possess this body of mine. Just behold my appearance. Is it not rather imposing? There exists a saying, striking appearances can wield considerable influence. If I were to position myself upon the thoroughfare and proclaim my identity as a talentless squanderer, who would lend credence to my words?" As he articulated his thoughts, Li Zai stood majestically by the lakeside, his chest protruding and his head held high. The gentle zephyr playfully ruffled his dark tresses, his brows sharp as blades and his eyes akin to celestial bodies. He was, without a doubt, a remarkable figure, reminiscent of a gentleman sculpted from jade, unmatched in the realm. Zhang Lada remained contemplative, acknowledging the veracity in the youth's assertions. Judging solely by appearances, Li Zai exuded an intimidating presence. Otherwise, he would not have been previously overlooked. Cultivators, apart from those of a brutish disposition who hone their physical forms, generally possess commendable visages, particularly those favored by the celestial lineage. Even if one's appearance were somewhat wanting, the elegance accrued over time could effortlessly compensate for it. Just as he himself had once been a youthful heartthrob, adored by countless young women. Zhang Lada took a sip of wine, experiencing a flicker of schadenfreude. That Qin Ana was surely destined for failure. Such a delightful prospect. Who would not take delight in witnessing a celestial maiden lose her poise or an emperor endure a thrashing? It is truly inconceivable to envision the expression on Qin Ana's visage upon discovering that this young man is incapable of cultivating martial arts. By the way, old Zhang, have you pondered further upon our previous conversation? Li Zai subtly shifted the discourse. The prospect of joining the Li family and becoming one of their esteemed guests? Zhang Lada responded with a faint smile. Indeed, the Li family possesses immense wealth and an abundance of exquisite wine, yet I am accustomed to my liberty. No matter how resplendent a place may be, I cannot linger for long. Furthermore, your family primarily engages in commerce, wielding sufficient strength to navigate most adversities. Why expend lavishly to support an old man, such as myself? That belongs to the past, Li Zai remarked, a flicker of coldness dancing in his composed gaze. A flourishing tree will inevitably attract the wind. A decade ago, the Li family was merely a thriving merchant household, often overlooked by many. Yet, the present-day Li family has accumulated wealth that stirs envy in countless hearts, including that of the chief merchant of Feng Tianhao. Recent intelligence reveals that the third prince, Mu Yao, has arrived in Yuzhou City, likely in pursuit of an opportunity to target my family. Your words imply that the Li family may be in jeopardy. In that case, I must deliberate my position with even greater caution, Zhang Lada commented, taking a sip of wine. To be under the royal family's scrutiny is no trivial matter. Your father is no longer in his prime, and you, his son, appear to squander your days disregarding family matters. Should anything befall your father, relying solely on your seemingly innocent stepsister may prove inadequate to uphold the vast Li family. Innocent by nature? Li Zai hesitated, a curious expression flitting across his visage. His mind wandered to Yue. What an apt characterization. In the study of the Li family, Li Baiwan perused the ledgers presented by Li Yue. After a cursory glance, he set them aside. Well done, Li Baiwan smiled. You have labored diligently over the years. Your business acumen has now eclipsed that of your adoptive father. It is all thanks to my younger brother, she replied with modesty. Liubi Zhenli Ramarka. Were it not for his inventions of perfume, soap, and mirrors, items previously unseen, our Li family would be but an ordinary merchant household. Alas, the young man harbors different aspirations. Li Million sighed softly. From a tender age, he has pursued the path of martial arts, exhibiting little interest in commerce. As long as it is what my little brother desires, I would pluck the stars from the heavens for him, Li Yue responded thoughtfully. You are ever so indulgent with him, Li Million said with a hint of exasperation. Yue, are you aware of the third Prince Mu Yao's impending visit to Yuzhou City? I am, Li Yue affirmed with a nod. His arrival is likely at the behest of the emperor, sent to investigate our family's affairs, Li Million remarked. He will uncover nothing, Li Yue replied with calm assurance. Furthermore, Li Million continued, Mu Yao is adept with the sword and likely seeks to take Qin Ana as his mentor. Upon hearing this, a chilling intensity flickered in Li Yue's previously tranquil gaze as she pronounced each word deliberately. I shall have him eliminated, ensuring it is executed cleanly and without a trace. Li Million smiled wryly. Do not be so hasty at the mere mention of Zai. He must already be cognizant of this matter. His silence indicates confidence in overcoming the third prince. What you must do is exercise caution and ensure he does not unearth our secrets from the royal family. Understood. Adoptive father, Li Yue nodded, refraining from further dispute. As night descended, the moon illuminated the surroundings with a captivating glow. At the Yueli Inn, a knock resonated, followed by the entrance of a young man clad in resplendent attire, his handsome visage gracing the presence of Qin Ana. The visitor was none other than the third prince of the great Shang, Mu Yao. In his hands, he held a wooden box, within which lay an ancient sword, emanating a subtle, icy aura. Fairy, this is my answer, Mu Yao declared earnestly. The famous sword, Cold Light. Qin Ana cast a glance at the ancient sword within the box, offering no further scrutiny, and responded calmly. The third prince's skill is indeed remarkable. You have passed this trial. Although Mu Yao felt inner joy, his expression remained composed, betraying none of his emotions. This initial test was not particularly arduous. The key lay in the demeanor of the Plum Blossom Sword Immortal. Had she been inclined, even a piece of scrap metal would have sufficed. As the third prince of the great Shang, even the Plum Blossom Sword Immortal would bestow upon him a measure of respect, rendering the initial challenge not excessively demanding. His voluntary presentation of the famous sword, Cold Light, was intended to leave a favorable impression on the Plum Blossom Sword Immortal, thereby establishing a foundation for the subsequent trials. You are likely aware of the second trial as well. Qin Ana gazed steadily at the third prince before her and stated calmly, Tomorrow, before sunset, await me at the Li residence. The Li residence? Mu Yao's countenance hardened upon receiving this news. He hesitated to articulate his thoughts, but ultimately chose to suppress his words, bowing respectfully before exiting the chamber. Within, the candlelight danced as Qin Ana stood by the window, her gaze fixed upon the serene night enveloping Yuzhou City, her ethereal beauty unmarred by the banalities of the world. Behind her, two wooden boxes rested quietly upon the table, harboring the cold light and the fish intestine, two illustrious blades, their chilling essence accentuated by the flickering candlelight. The lengthy night unfolded in silence. The following day, as the sun ascended, shrouded by wispy clouds, the Li residence welcomed its most illustrious guest in history, the third prince of the Shang dynasty, Mu Yao. One extraordinary honor. In the opulent grand hall, Li Baiwan graciously welcomed the prince, his countenance radiant with delight, his generous girth quivering with mirth. Mu Yao regarded the wealthiest individual of the Shang dynasty with equal respect, responding with a warm and inviting smile. After engaging in conversation for a considerable duration, Mu Yao cast a glance outside and inquired, Might I ask if your esteemed son is present within the residence? At this, Li Baiwan's smile broadened even further. My son, though lacking in exceptional talent, possesses a rather impetuous nature. I feared he might inadvertently alarm His Highness, hence I refrained from summoning him to the front hall. However, since your Highness wishes to see him, I shall send for him immediately." With that, Li Baiwan rose and called out, "Fetch my son," stating that the third prince desires an audience. "Yes," replied a servant, hurrying towards the back courtyard. "The third prince wishes to see me?" In the secluded courtyard by the serene lake, Li Zai, who was engaged in fishing, was greeted by the servant's announcement, eliciting a broad smile that illuminated his face like blossoms in full bloom. Chapter 4. The Taiji sword bestowed by the immortal. As Li Zai entered the front hall of the Li residence, he adorned himself in resplendent attire from Yinzhou, a jade pendant from the east sea gracefully hanging at his waist. His visage mirrored that of a crowned jade, while his demeanor embodied the essence of an ethereal being. In terms of appearance and presence, Li Zai was indeed a remarkable individual, standing apart from the commonplace. Even the scions of celestial sex would find it challenging to rival his magnificence. In essence, Li Zai radiated brilliance, excellence, and an awe-inspiring aura. Within the hall, upon observing Li Zai's extraordinary presence, Mu Yao's eyes shimmered with curiosity. What a prodigy from the Li family! The accolades were undoubtedly well-earned. The whispers from Yuzhou City and throughout the Shang dynasty were not mere exaggerations. "This must be Brother Zai," Mu Yao remarked, rising to greet him with a welcoming smile and an air of politeness. Commoner Li Zai pays his respects to the third prince. He appeared somewhat flustered, preparing to bow deeply, adjusting the hem of his robe and sleeves as if intending to prostrate himself in reverence. "Brother Zai need not be so formal," Mu Yao interjected, gently assisting him to stand upright. "We are not in the palace. Such elaborate rituals may be set aside." This was the Li residence, and he could not permit the young master of the Li family to engage in such an extensive display of reverence. "Thank you," third prince Li Zai, who had not intended to bow, straightened up with a radiant smile. "Brother Zai, please," Mu Yao replied as he returned to his seat. Looking at the young man across from him, he remarked, "Before arriving in Yuzhou City, I had heard of your esteemed name. Seeing you today, you truly live up to your reputation. Your Highness exaggerates. It is your noble name that resonates throughout the world," Li Zai responded softly. "I have long admired you from afar." Their pleasantries sounded sincere. However, as competitors vying for the favor of Qin Ana as a mentor, such exchanges were indeed disingenuous. "I have heard of your exceptional swordsmanship, Brother Zai. Might you share some insights with me?" Mu Yao inquired after sipping his tea. "Before your Highness, how could a commoner claim to comprehend the art of the sword?" Li Zai responded with a smile. "Brother Zai, there is no need for excessive modesty. In the great Shang dynasty, nearly everyone is aware that you are a prodigy in swordsmanship, having devised your own techniques at the tender age of 10. Even the esteemed sword enthusiast has sung your praises," murmured Mu Yao softly. "Alas, rumors are but mere whispers," Li Zai replied with a smile. "It is your Highness who is the true master of the sword. How could a humble firefly dare to compete with your resplendent moonlight?" He indeed. From his seat, Li Baiwan listened to their exchange, merely smiling without interjecting. Mu Yao silently set down his teacup, his brow furrowing in contemplation. This father-son duo was indeed formidable to contend with. "Third prince, may I inquire how many divine chambers have been opened?" Li Zai savored a sip of tea before abruptly posing a profound inquiry. "In the realm of martial arts, the emphasis rests upon self-cultivation. The human body is endowed with 5 organs, each presiding over a vital essence. Practitioners refer to these as the 5 divine chambers. It is said that esteemed practitioners who have unlocked all 5 divine chambers possess the extraordinary capability to traverse mountains and seas." The second divine chamber. Mu Yao responded with candor. Upon hearing this, a flicker of envy crossed Li Zai's countenance, such a stark contrast indeed. "And what of you, Brother Zai?" Mu Yao inquired. "Not a single divine chamber yet unlocked," Li Zai chuckled. Mu Yao expressed mild astonishment. "Surely you jest. Before your Highness, how could a humble man dare to jest?" Li Zai smiled. "Thus, I am eager to become an apprentice to the Plum Blossom Sword Immortal, and I hope your Highness might assist in this endeavor." Upon hearing this, Mu Yao's eyes narrowed slightly before he responded with a tranquil smile. "Ultimately, this matter must be determined by Fairy Qin. It lies beyond our influence, does it not? Your Highness speaks with great wisdom, Li Zai remarked, setting down his teacup with a smile. Regardless of the outcome, I sincerely hope Your Highness will linger in Yuzhou City for a few more days, allowing the Li family the honor of extending their hospitality. I shall respectfully comply. Mu Yao replied courteously, not refusing the invitation. His purpose in coming here was never to depart so easily. Over the past decade, the Li family's remarkable growth in Yuzhou City has been nothing short of extraordinary, their burgeoning wealth now capturing the court's attention. He must uncover whether there are any secrets the court remains oblivious to regarding the Li family. Yet, could it truly be that Li Zai has yet to unlock a single divine chamber? Why? Across the table, observing the contemplative expression of the third prince of the Great Shang, Li Zai's lips curved into a subtle smile. The cunning fox that is the Shang Emperor indeed appears to have set his sights on the Li family. Thus, the Li household must extend their hospitality with utmost diligence in the days to come. In silent reflection, the two exchanged knowing smiles, quietly savoring their tea, each harboring their own concealed intentions. As the prolonged wait unfolded, the sun descended in the western sky. At that moment, cherry blossoms began to drift gracefully above the Li residence. They have arrived, Li Zai remarked upon noticing. Li Baiwan and Mu Yao turned their gaze skyward, witnessing the flurry of blossoms, and promptly rose to welcome their guest. A moment later, amidst the air, a surge of sword energy heralded the descent of the Plum Blossom Fairy, who gracefully alighted upon her sword, her attire flowing like that of a celestial being. Such a commanding presence, Li Zai observed, his envy unabashed. Why did he long to master the art of martial combat? Was it solely for the purpose of warfare? Certainly not. He merely yearned to revel in the splendor. Much like the esteemed Qin, wherever she treads, she captivates attention. After a brief interlude, amidst the swirling energy of swords, Qin Aina descended from the heavens, advancing towards the trio. Fairy greeted Li Baiwan, his visage a tapestry of sycophancy, embellished with an eager smile as he stepped forth to pay his respects. Mu Yao, adopting a more solemn aspect, extended a courteous bow, exuding an air of regal dignity. Old Fairy. The term Old Qin nearly escaped Li Zai's lips, startling him into silence as he hastily swallowed his words and bowed. Beside him, Li Baiwan was equally taken aback, beads of cold sweat forming upon his brow as his legs quaked. Observing the reactions of the father and son, Qin Aina furrowed her delicate brows, perplexed yet opting not to delve further. She calmly remarked, "No need for pleasantries. Let us commence." Mu Yao and Li Zai exchanged glances. With Mu Yao speaking first, "Brother Zai, please proceed." "Not at all. Your Highness should go first," Li Zai insisted with polite humility. "Very well." Mu Yao acquiesced without further contest, retrieving a sword from the hands of a servant behind him. The moment he grasped the sword, his demeanor metamorphosed, shedding the gentility of a prince to embody the sharpness of a blade. With a swift motion, akin to a thunderclap or a resplendent rainbow, the sword in Mu Yao's hands shimmered with azure light, and in the blink of an eye, he executed 10 consecutive strikes. "Son, how does his swordplay fare?" Li Baiwan subtly nudged Li Zai's arm, inquiring in a muted tone. "I cannot fully grasp it, yet it undeniably seems formidable." Li Zai responded quietly. "His swordplay resembles that of a startled swan. Indeed, it is quite impressive." Seemingly attuned to their conversation, Qin Aina remarked with composure, "The third prince of Deshang harbors the potential of a sword immortal." Li Zai and Li Baiwan exchanged glances, their astonishment palpable. It appeared that Old Qin held the third prince in high esteem, which was an ominous sign. Surely, Old Qin is not nurturing affections for this third prince? That simply cannot be. Yet, just as their thoughts began to awaken, Qin Aina altered her tone, offering a frank evaluation. While his swordsmanship is indeed praiseworthy, it is unfortunate that most of the techniques are derivative and lack originality. Ahem, martial arts throughout the realm may traverse similar paths, and such resemblances are not uncommon. I surmise these techniques must have demanded considerable effort from a third prince. Li Zai interjected, clearing his throat and feigning magnanimity. Qin Aina directed her gaze toward him, scrutinizing him for a moment before withdrawing her attention nodding perhaps. Since you advocate for his cause, I shall deem this challenge surmounted. Slap. Li Zai involuntarily recoiled, administering a self-directed rebuke for his indiscretion. Now it is your turn, Qin Aina remarked, a subtle smile illuminating her features. Li Zai collected his emotions, momentarily stifling his self-condemnation, and retrieved a sword from a servant positioned behind him, advancing with purpose. In that instant, Mu Yao sheathed his sword and approached. As they brushed past one another, their gazes locked with fervor, yet silence enveloped them both. Under the watchful eyes of many, Li Zai unsheathed his sword, his countenance grave. In the rear courtyard, by the tranquil lakeside, Zhang Lada lifted his gaze toward the front courtyard, a placid smile gracing his lips. The Taiji, a sword truly worthy of a master. Had he not witnessed it firsthand, he would have found it difficult to believe that such an extraordinary sword technique could emanate from that young man. Could it be that Tai Chi was conceived by that young man? Perhaps, or perhaps not. In any event, the elder remained unconvinced. There must exist some concealed complexities. Yet without the youth's elucidation, he could not comprehend them. Qin Aina, do not permit yourself to be misled by this young man. In the front courtyard, the sword of Tai Chi was unsheathed, embodying the complete and harmonious essence of the cosmos, a sword devoid of desire and discord, exemplifying the poise of a master. Amidst the sword forms, Li Zai's movements flowed between swiftness and languor, continuously transitioning at meticulously calculated intervals. Mu Yao stood transfixed, his countenance a canvas of astonishment, utterly incredulous. How could this be possible? Tai Chi, Qin Aina softly murmured, her features equally etched with disbelief. Was this truly the sword technique heralded in the whispers? Under their astonished gazes, the sword wielded by Li Zai metamorphosed with an ever-increasing swiftness, rendering his defenses impenetrable and his strikes as fierce as lightning. Above Li Zai, the faint sounds of wind and thunder resonated, while rays of light shimmered and fluctuated. King Anna Gazid Ubvart, witnessing an anomaly in the sky that eluded the perception of ordinary eyes, her astonishment deepening. The heavens bore witness. Such phenomena had not graced her vision for many years. The last time she beheld such an occurrence was when the master of the Tianyu Shrine in the western region manifested the divine scriptures. On that momentous day, the shrine trembled for miles, accompanied by the resounding echoes of wind and thunder. In contrast, today's phenomenon was considerably less grand. However, one must bear in mind that the master of the Tianyu Shrine was an immensely powerful practitioner who had unlocked the 5 divine caches. This young man possesses extraordinary talent, and his future is boundless. Qin Aina gazed intently at Li Zai, enveloped in an aura of wind and thunder, resolutely affirming her thoughts. After a prolonged moment, as all eyes were riveted upon him, Li Zai sheathed his sword, causing the tempest to subside. Is this sword technique genuinely your own invention? King Anna inquired, emerging from her astonishment. In a dream, granted by an immortal, Li Zai replied with a smile, his words a harmonious blend of truth and jest. Upon hearing this, Qin Aina nodded, choosing not to pursue further inquiries. Are there truly immortals in this realm? Even a sword immortal differs from another. Fairy, have they departed? Li Baiwan inquired with eager anticipation. They have passed, Qin Aina responded, her gaze gliding over Li Zai and Mu Yao before she continued. The final trial awaits. Upon hearing this, Li Zai immediately perked up, while Mu Yao focused intently, a hint of tension rising within him. Tomorrow at this time, you two shall spar. The victor shall become my disciple, Qin Aina stated calmly. Li Zai's expression grew grave, his thoughts deepening. In contrast, a smile crept upon Mu Yao's face as he felt a wave of relief. Victory is assured, he exclaimed. Fairy, Li Baiwan interjected, stepping forward earnestly. This is unfair to Zai. Unfair? King Anna Is there such a thing as absolute fairness in this world? The victors are crowned, while the vanquished are cast aside. That is fairness. Prepare well, for tomorrow at this time, the victor shall be my disciple. Chapter 5. Unassuming yet resolute, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the luminous moon ascended in the east. 2 figures found solace by the water's edge in the rear courtyard. where the moonlight danced gracefully upon the lake surface, conjuring a serene ballet of illumination. Old Zhang. Li Zai cast his gaze across the tranquil waters and inquired, "Is there genuinely no path for you as well?" "None," Zhang Lada replied, shaking his head. "While Mu Yao has unlocked the second divine vault, you remain without a single vault opened. The disparity is insurmountable." "My family possesses wealth," Li Zai murmured softly. "Whatever the amount required, we have it in abundance. Divine weapons and armor aplenty. That still would not suffice unless—" Zhang Lada fixed his gaze upon the lake, calmly stating, "You were to send someone to eliminate him tonight." "That makes sense." Li Zai pondered for a moment, then earnestly nodded, saying, "Old Zhang, name your price." "Huh." Zhang Lada smiled faintly. "I am not so base-minded." 100 jars of floral wine, Li Zai proposed. "That is a prince of the great merchants." Zhang Lada scoffed. "Do you think me a fool?" 200, Li Zai retorted, elevating his proposal. "Absolutely impossible," Zhang Lada responded, shaking his head in disapproval. 500, Li Zai proclaimed, markedly enhancing his offer. "I have no penchant for bloodshed," Zhang Lada mused, pausing momentarily before continuing. 1,000 jars. Alongside 500 jars of the finest daughter's red, Li Zai articulated his ultimate terms. "Deal," Zhang Lada affirmed, rising and striding towards the exit. "Old Zhang," Li Zai called out from behind. Zhang Lada turned, inquiring, "What is it? Are you regretting your choice?" "Not at all," Li Zai replied with a smile. "However, do not take his life. The moment to completely sever ties with the royal family has not yet arrived. Allow him to remain in repose for a few days." "You lack ambition," Zhang Lada retorted with a sneer before making his exit. As the night deepened, within a guest room at the Yulai Inn, Mu Yao sat beneath the flickering candlelight, quietly honing his sword. Before the bed, a young servant had arranged the bedding and remarked, "Your Highness, it would be wise to retire early." Mu Yao nodded in acknowledgement. "You may leave now." "Understood," the servant replied, but he hesitated at the threshold. A look of concern etched on his features. "Your Highness, do you not wish to reach out to the authorities in Yuzhou? I harbor concerns that the Li family may represent a peril to your safety." "Such a scenario is unlikely to transpire." Mu Yao offered a gentle smile, remarking that they are all astute individuals who comprehend the established protocols. "The Li family is acutely aware that should any harm befall me here, they would be unable to evade culpability." Upon hearing this, the servant departed the room with a sense of reassurance. Mu Yao sheathed his sword, preparing to extinguish the candle and retire for the night. Suddenly, a frigid breeze swept through the space, causing the flame to flicker erratically. Mu Yao's body tensed, and as he regained his composure, his countenance transformed into one of alarm. The wind intensified, and an unseen force surged into the chamber. In an instant, a figure emerged, moving with deliberate intent, their breath already palpable within the confines of the room. "Who goes there?" Mu Yao exclaimed in astonishment. "The one who seeks your demise," replied the intruder, their visage concealed by a mask, their presence restrained, yet the oppressive aura was suffocating. "Fairy, save me." Recognizing the imminent danger faced by the visitor, Mu Yao retreated, desperately calling out. Qin Xianzi was also present at the Yulai Inn. His sole hope for survival hinged upon capturing her attention. "Ah, King Anna, is it?" Beneath the mask, Zhang Lada bore a subtle smile as he swiftly advanced, seizing the throat of the individual before him. On the third floor, Qin Anna perceived the desperate cries for assistance from below, her eyes narrowing with acute awareness. In an instant, Qin Anna vanished from her chamber. On the second floor, Zhang Lada constricted his grip around the third prince's throat, applying pressure gradually. "I am the third prince of the great Shang dynasty. Should you take my life, yours shall be forfeited as well." Mu Yao exclaimed in terror. Bang! Zhang Lada uttered not a word, delivering a forceful strike to Mu Yao's chest. Poof! With a vigorous blow, his energy surged within, causing Mu Yao to choke and expel a mouthful of blood. Swish! At that moment, a streak of sword energy sliced through the air behind them. Zhang Lada sensed it, releasing his grip on Mu Yao and evading the oncoming blade with a graceful motion. Mu Yao's form crumpled weakly, and as the sword energy swept past, a solitary lock of hair fell silently to the ground. Within the confines of the room, Qin Aina and Zhang Lada exchanged a glance, a palpable aura of tension emanating between them. The Plum Blossom, Sword Immortal, truly lives up to its illustrious title. Until we meet again, Zhang Lada stated with a serene demeanor before leaping out of the window. Qin Aina frowned, her figure swiftly following in pursuit. Beneath the night sky, the streets of Yuzhou City bore witness to two figures darting past, their speed extraordinary, traversing multiple avenues in the blink of an eye. Ahead, Zhang Lada soared into the air, alighting atop the buildings flanking the street, then formed a sword with his fingers, unleashing a wave of sword energy. Qin Aina concentrated intently, her delicate hand sweeping through the air as she gathered the sword energy to counter his assault. Enraptured by the sword, in their initial encounter, Qin Aina discerned his identity. In Yuzhou City, one possessing such exceptional swordsmanship could only be him. "Ah, your perception is admirable," Zhang Lada chuckled from the rooftop, playfully remarking. "How has the illustrious Plum Blossom, Sword Immortal come to serve as a royal guard?" Qin Aina retorted with a frosty smile. "I never anticipated that the legendary sword enthusiast would debase himself by selling his life for another." "Who is your master, Li Zai?" Zhang Lada replied with a light smile. "You truly overestimate that lad. My father is not one to be swayed by riches. Although the Li family is affluent, they cannot procure my liberty." "Not the Li family?" Qin Aina frowned, bewildered. Who else would dare to target the third prince? "Qin Aina, shall we continue this duel, or will I take my leave?" Zhang Lada erupted in joyous laughter, taking another step before springing away. Qin Aina lingered on the street, her gaze radiant, choosing not to pursue any further. Her cultivation was nearly on par with that of the sword enthusiast, and unless it were a matter of life and death, it would prove quite arduous to apprehend him. Who, then, held the authority to command such a sword fanatic? In the rear courtyard of the Li residence, Li Zai awaited with patience. At that moment, a figure dashed past, shedding his mask. It was old Zhang. Upon witnessing this, Li Zai rushed forward, inquiring, "Did you succeed? With my old man taking action? How could I possibly fail?" Zhang Lada replied with a smile. "This time, the third prince will require at least 10 days of recuperation before he can rise. However, do you not dread the royal family's retribution for your actions?" "Indeed, I do," Li Zai replied with a gentle smile. Yet, throughout the years, the court has increasingly sought to both deliberately and inadvertently investigate and stifle the Li family. It is merely a matter of time before the court decides to act against us. He chuckled softly. "How bold it is to challenge the royal family. It appears I have greatly underestimated you, Li Mansion." Zhang Lada narrowed his eyes and commented, "Today, I fear that even if I choose not to intervene, someone from the third prince's faction will undoubtedly take action. Who can say? Perhaps the heavens cannot endure witnessing this and will dispatch valiant souls to temper the royal family's hubris," Li Zai replied with a smile. 1,000 jars of drunken flower brew, along with 500 jars of daughter's red. Not a single jar less, Zhang Lada insisted. "Not a problem," Li Zai chuckled. "As long as you desire to partake, I shall supply it at any hour. I must take my leave. Spending an excessive amount of time in your company instills within me a disquieting sense that I may be the target of some scheme." Zhang Lada waved his hand and proceeded toward his chamber. Once old Zhang returned to his quarters, Li Zai did not tarry and turned to depart. Creak! As the door swung open, Li Zai stepped inside and was met with the sight of a woman within, his countenance illuminating with a gentle smile. "Sister Yue, what brings you here?" "Waiting for you." Within the room, the flickering candlelight rendered Li Yue's delicate features even more captivating. "Waiting for me?" Li Zai approached with curiosity and inquired, "Is there something you require?" At that moment, Li Yue slid a wooden box toward him, within which rested a long sword in serene repose. "What is this?" Li Zai asked, a look of perplexity crossing his face. "A sword imbued with poison," Li Yue replied with composure. "It harbors an odorless and tasteless toxin. Upon mingling with blood, it disrupts the flow of one's vital energy. This poison endures for merely 15 minutes, after which it vanishes, leaving no trace and presenting no remedy." "Oh!" Li Zai's countenance transformed into one of astonishment as he remarked. "Such an extraordinary artifact. When was it conceived?" Your sworn brother dispatched it today, Li Yue informed him. Second brother? Li Zai's lips twitched. I believed him to be deceased. I have received no word from him. Exercise caution in your words. He may very well overhear you, Li Yue gently cautioned. He is not known for his politeness, so it would be wise to avoid provoking him to spare yourself from any potential distress. Is it not evident that he is absent? Li Zai chuckled bashfully. Sister Yue, I am grateful, and please convey my thanks to second brother. He may not hold me in high regard, so I shall refrain from expressing my gratitude to him directly. Understood. Please take care and rest early, Li Yue replied softly before rising to depart. In the solitude of the room, Li Zai's gaze fell upon the sword resting on the table, a flicker of danger illuminating his eyes. The night passed in serene stillness. The following day, the entire Li family convened, extending invitations to numerous esteemed figures from Yuzhou City to witness the culmination of this significant event. In the front courtyard, Li Zai, Li Million, and Li Yue gathered. The leaders of the Li family assembled. The residence brimmed with activity, from dawn until noon, and, as the sun began its descent, everyone awaited with bated breath the conclusion of this momentous apprenticeship ceremony that had captivated the attention of the entire Deshang dynasty. Amidst the throng, Qin Aina arrived, gliding gracefully upon her sword, as radiant and resplendent as ever. In terms of grace and beauty, the Plum Blossom Sword Immortal is undeniably unmatched in this realm. Most of the key figures have gathered, with only the third prince yet to arrive. As time meanders on, the dignitaries invited by the Li family from Yuzhou City grow increasingly restless. This third prince harbors quite the arrogance. Even the Plum Blossom Fairy has graced us with her presence, yet he dares to linger. Let us wait a little longer. After all, he is a prince. A prince. Indeed, he is merely a prince, not an emperor. Thus, he bears no substantial weight. The crowd engages in hushed conversations, their discontent clearly evident regarding the delay of the third prince. Yet, as the sun descends, Mu Yao, the second pivotal character in this martial contest, remains absent. Li Zai, Li Million, and Li Yue are acutely aware of the unfolding situation and exhibit an unruffled demeanor. The sun has dipped below the horizon. Is the third prince still missing? What could be amiss? Why has he yet to make his entrance? Time has elapsed, and it appears the third prince has recoiled from the challenge. Within the Li residence, the esteemed figures of Yuzhou City exchange whispers, visibly astonished by the turn of events. Fairy, Li Million remarked with a radiant smile. The third prince has not yet arrived. What course of action shall we take? The moment has arrived. Li Zai has emerged victorious and successfully completed the trial. This conclusion had long been anticipated, and Qin Aina cast a profound glance at Li Zai from afar before resolutely announcing the result to the gathered assembly. Upon hearing the verdict, Li Zai felt a surge of elation and clenched his fist in triumph. All eyes were fixed upon him as Qin Aina turned her earnest gaze in his direction, inquiring, "Do you wish to take me as your master?" "I do," he responded. A radiant smile unfurled across Li Zai's face as he proclaimed, "From this day forth, regardless of fortune or misfortune, wealth or poverty, or any other circumstance, I am willing to become a disciple of Fairy Qin, ever loyal and steadfast, until the end of my days. Will you accept?" Listening to the peculiar proclamation before her, Qin Aina slightly furrowed her brow, yet perceived nothing amiss. Before the city's elite, she nodded in affirmation. "Indeed, I shall." Beside her, Li Yue radiated joy, her beauty blossoming like a flower, captivating all who laid eyes upon her. It was decreed. Qin Aina was fated to remain within the embrace of her younger brother. To wed a sword immortal as a wife would not diminish her brother's stature. Chapter 6. The Consequences of One's Own Actions. An extra on Li Tianjiao. Li Zai of the Li family in Yuzhou has taken the illustrious Plum Blossom Sword Immortal as his mentor. An additional note, Li Zai demonstrates the ethereal Tai Chi swordsmanship, causing a celestial phenomenon where countless swords bow in homage. Another note, the Plum Blossom Sword Immortal declares that Li Zai embodies the essence of a sword immortal. Yet another note, the Plum Blossom Fairy reveals her desire to take Li Zai as her Dao partner. In the secluded courtyard of the Li residence, Upon overhearing the swirling rumors of Yuzhou City, Li Zai was taken aback, spitting out his tea in astonishment. I did not authorize anyone to disseminate such claims, he exclaimed. Noticing the inquisitive gaze of Zhang Lada upon him, Li Zai hastily clarified, I merely requested an announcement that old Qin has accepted me as his disciple. As for a Dao partner, I am utterly oblivious to such matters. Oh, Zhang Lada responded with feigned indifference, I certainly believe you. Indeed, I do. Young master, Fairy Qin has arrived. At that moment, another young attendant rushed forward, exclaiming, This is dire. Li Zai's countenance changed with apprehension. Could old Qin have come to exact vengeance? However, before Li Zai could collect his thoughts, a graceful figure emerged from the courtyard, her movements leisurely yet seemingly traversing great distances. In the blink of an eye, she reached the tranquil lakeside. Qin Aina cast a fleeting glance at Li Zai, uttering not a word, before her gaze shifted to the side where Zhang Lada stood. Calmly, she remarked, So you are indeed here. Fairy Qin, it has been a while, Zhang Lada replied, opening his eyes with a subtle smile. Not too long. We just encountered each other 2 days ago. I'm quite intrigued as to why you chose to assist him. He possesses wealth. With ample riches, even demons can be persuaded, Zhang Lada replied nonchalantly. Did you not also accept his fishgut sword and heavenly silkworm armor, only to repeatedly grant him leniency? Qin Aina fell silent, and after a moment, she spoke earnestly. I recognized his martial talent. Martial talent? Zhang Lada's visage bore an unusual smile in response to her words. Nearby, Li Zai coughed several times, having inadvertently swallowed his tea. Qin Aina, have you yet examined his meridians? Zhang Lada inquired, his expression radiating delight. Meridians? Qin Aina knitted her brows. Why would I need to inspect his meridians? I perceive his remarkable martial talents. His viscera and blood vitality are vigorous, and the potential inherent within him surely exceeds that of the ordinary. The elderly gentleman shared her view as well. At one point, Zhang Lada remarked, a smile devoid of warmth gracing his lips. Upon hearing this, Qin Aina sensed an underlying disturbance and quickly advanced, grasping Li Zai's arm. Gradually, her complexion began to shift. Ha! Zhang Lada could no longer restrain himself and erupted into laughter. He had anticipated this moment for an extended period. With all 8 meridians obstructed, how could his vital energy possibly flow? Regardless of the robustness of his internal organs and blood, what significance did it hold? As the young man himself would articulate, to practice relentlessly until one became a ticking time bomb, only to implode? You both colluded to mislead me. Qin Aina withdrew her hand, her eyes shimmering with frost as she spoke with an icy demeanor. We have not deceived you. Zhang Lada chuckled heartily from beginning to end. Neither I nor this young man have ever uttered a word of falsehood. It is merely that you placed undue faith in your own perceptions and believed the rumors. Li Zai wore an awkward smile, scratching his nose in embarrassment, feeling rather ashamed, for it was not a matter to boast about. Qin Aina clenched her delicate hands, her chest rising and falling with agitation, her gaze fixed upon the two as if she could consume them whole. Qin Aina, you publicly proclaimed before the entire city of Yuzhou that you would take this young man as your disciple, now that you wish to retract your words. It is too late, Zhang Lada remarked gleefully. Or perhaps you would prefer to assist him in opening his 8 meridians? Would that not present a greater challenge than merely accepting a genius? Failli, Lizia interjecta earnestly. As long as you can assist me in unblocking my 8 meridians and successfully embark upon the path of martial arts, any cost is trifling. Old Li is devoid of nothing but silver. Upon hearing the youth's declaration, Qin Aina gradually regained her composure from her fury. The die had been cast, and it was too late for further discussion. I am unaware of the method to open the 8 meridians, Qin Aina stated, suppressing her rage as she spoke deliberately. Upon hearing this, Li Zai trembled slightly, his countenance darkening. If even Qin Aina was at a loss regarding how to navigate the 8 meridians, it appeared he was indeed fated to be estranged from the martial path. There is another matter I must disclose, Qin Aina remarked with a frigid smile. The urgency in my search for disciples arises from a wager I have with the venerable master of the Zhuge sect. 3 years hence, my disciples must compete against this. Should we falter, the repercussions will be beyond your capacity to endure. And who is the disciple of the venerable master of the Zhuge sect? Li Zai's gaze turned towards old Zhang, a lump forming in his throat as a wave of foreboding surged within him. Pulling air, Zhang Lada smirked. One of the 4 greatest prodigies in the world, vastly superior to that third prince. Li Zai trembled at the mention, comprehending the grave implications. A gentle breeze caressed the lakeside as the trio fell into silence, the atmosphere growing increasingly tense. A stalemate. Qin Ana had not foreseen that she would be burdened with a worthless disciple, while Li Zai was equally taken aback by the existence of such a wager between Qin Ana and others. Who had deceived whom? For a moment, none of the 3 knew how to respond. Do not attempt to rescue me. Li Zai finally snapped back to reality and declared before plunging into the lake with a resounding splash. Let me drown. On the shore, Qin Ana and Zhang Lada exchanged meaningful glances before discreetly averting their eyes. Qin Ana, it would be prudent for you to devise a strategy. This lad knows no limits. Should you disregard him, he may very well capitulate in the competition 3 years hence, Zhang Lada warned. Limits? This boy has none. He has never conformed to conventional standards. What rational being would dispatch an individual to incapacitate a prince on the eve of a competition? Qin Ana narrowed her eyes slightly, and after a considerable pause, she proposed. Perhaps we should allow him to engage in body refinement. Cultivating external skills might be a viable option. Body refinement? Zhang Lada chuckled softly. Do you genuinely believe that with his slender limbs, he can accomplish anything of significance? Without genuine vigor to temper him, even the process of body refinement will yield minimal results. Qin Ana fell into silence, her eyes betraying a thoughtful disposition. After what seemed like an eternity, she gradually proclaimed, "Then there remains but a singular course of action." With that, her gaze shifted to the heart of the lake, a frigid light flickering in her eyes as she asserted, "Forcefully shatter his meridians." Upon hearing this, Zhang Lada's expression altered. Do you intend to take his life? The meridians of an ordinary individual are remarkably delicate. To forcibly rupture them would inevitably result in death. Qin Ana dismissed the notion, asserting that while common folk may falter, he might withstand it. Let's not forget, the Li family possesses immeasurable wealth. With each meridian that is fractured, he can employ countless potent herbs for restoration, until every meridian within his body lies in ruin. This indeed represents the most dreadful method imaginable. Zhang Lada's eyes glimmered with skepticism. Are you certain that it will be his meridians that shatter first, and not him succumbing to your torment? Even with mountains of medicinal herbs, there is no assurance that he can endure the excruciating pain of shattered meridians, a suffering beyond the capacity of any ordinary person to bear, let alone to endure it hundreds or even thousands of times. One must endeavor to ascertain, Qin Ana replied with composure. As their dialogue unfolded, a serene stillness enveloped the heart of the lake. Where has that boy vanished? Zhang Lada abruptly regained his composure, casting a worried glance toward the heart of the lake. Could it be that he had truly succumbed to the depths? Qin Ana knitted her brow, her eyes also riveted on the lake's core. Rescue him, Zhang Lada cried out, rising to his feet in urgency. There is no need for such commotion, Qin Ana countered, her hand sweeping through the air as she grasped her sword. A vibrant energy enveloped her as she struck the water-esque surface with her blade. With a resounding boom, the sword cleaved the heavens, parting the lake with a deafening crack, akin to an inverted waterfall, splitting it asunder. Splash! In that very moment, from the left half of the parted lake, a figure surged forth from the depths, twisting its head to gaze upon the newly divided waters, astonished by the spectacle. What on earth is transpiring? Lizia exclaimat shuddaring. His words laced with a vivid array of exclamations. This rascal nearly scared me to death. Zhang Lada, observing the scene, breathed a sigh of relief, narrowly averting the loss of his cherished 1,000 jars of intoxicated floral brew. The lake shimmered as the waters cascaded down, waves frothing in an enchanting display. Li Zai swam to the shore, his gaze transfixed on Qin Ana, who wielded the sword, his admiration almost compelling him to bestow a kiss upon her. "Would you care to learn?" Qin Ana inquired with serene composure. "Indeed," Li Zai affirmed vigorously, his head nodding with the fervor of a drumstick. "It may prove to be somewhat arduous," Qin Ana remarked with nonchalance. "I can endure a modicum of hardship," Li Zai replied earnestly, nodding with conviction. Nearby, Zhang Lada smirked. "It would indeed entail more than merely a modicum of hardship. Have your father prepare the medicinal herbs. I shall furnish a list of their names. The greater the quantity, the better," Qin Ana stated matter-of-factly. "What constitutes the greater the quantity? Could you provide a rough estimate?" Li Zai inquired. Qin Ana contemplated for a brief moment before gesturing toward a room situated behind her. "Fill that room to its utmost capacity." Astonishingly, even the erudite and affluent Li Zai was compelled to exclaim in disbelief. "Does old Qin regard a chamber filled with medicinal herbs as mere cabbages? You may opt not to prepare. In 3 years, anticipate your demise at the hands of Hualiner," Qin Ana stated flatly before departing. Li Zia stood momentarily stunned, then regained his composure, casting a glance at Zhang Lada. "Old Zhang, are you aware of old Qin's intentions?" "No idea," Zhang Lada replied decisively, being merely a spectator to the unfolding drama, indifferent to the rest. A look of suspicion clouded Li Zai's countenance. Why did he sense an ominous premonition? Half a day later, within the study of the Li residence, Li Million surveyed the extensive inventory of medicinal herbs laid out before him, his portly visage quivering incessantly. How much is required?" Li Million stammered. "My brother mentioned he needs an entire room filled." Li Yue replied gently, "Indeed." "Good heavens!" Li Million could not contain his astonishment. "Foster father." Li Yue accepted the list with a smile. "I shall take care of this. I will discover a means to gather the necessary funds." "Yue." Li Million's expression quivered. "Are you aware of the amount of silver this will entail?" "I am." Li Yue responded with a faint smile. "It is merely silver. How could it possibly hold greater significance than the aspirations of a younger brother?" "You, indeed." Li Baiwan shook his head in exasperation and declared, "Very well, I shall entrust this matter to your discretion." With a serene smile, Li Yue said nothing further and departed from the study. 2 hours later, every prominent pharmacy in Yuzhou City had been entirely stripped of its inventory. The following day, in 3 adjacent cities, enigmatic buyers descended upon numerous pharmacies, exhausting their supplies of essential medicines. 10 days later, half of the cities within the great merchant dynasty found themselves devoid of significant medicinal stock. The astonishing wealth of the Li family in Yuzhou suddenly bared its fangs, leaving the world in awe. At that moment, however, Li Zai of the Li residence was at the Yulai Inn, enjoying tea, not with Qin Ana, but with the third prince of the great merchant dynasty. "Your Highness, please." In the third prince's chamber, Li Zai raised his cup with a smile. Chapter 7. A minor pain cannot kill. At the Yulai Inn, on the 2nd floor, Li Zai paid a visit to the third prince, Mu Yao, his countenance imbued with a profound concern that was truly touching. "I have heard that His Highness was assaulted and sustained injuries. I have longed to pay my respects, but refrained for fear of interrupting your recuperation. Thus, I make my visit today. I trust you will not take offense." Li Zai spoke gently, lifting his teacup. "You are exceedingly gracious, brotherly." Mu Yao internally scoffed, yet he masked his disdain with a smile as he replied, "I am indeed pleased by your presence." Although he remained oblivious to the identity of his assailant that fateful night, he could readily deduce that it was somehow linked to the Li family. Nevertheless, he possessed no evidence, nor was it prudent at this juncture to confront the Li family. "What are your intentions, Your Highness? Will you return to the capital upon your recovery?" Li Zai inquired with a hint of hesitation, urging no urgency. Mu Yao responded with a smile, expressing her desire to immerse herself in the customs and culture of Yuzhou City, acknowledging that she would undoubtedly impose upon Brother Li for his guidance. Upon hearing this, Li Zai narrowed his eyes slightly, realizing that this individual intended to linger. "Impose? How could I ever think of it that way? Your Highness's wish to remain is something I could only hope for," he replied, adorned with a sincere smile. "Thank you," Mu Yao said, pausing momentarily before continuing. By the way, there is something that has piqued my curiosity for quite some time. I have heard that the perfume, glass, and soap enterprises of the Leaf family in Yuzhou stemmed from an invention of yours during your childhood. Is that true? Of course not, Li Zai replied with hearty laughter. Your Highness, how could you entertain such rumors? The Li family's perfume venture has been established for a decade. A decade ago, I was merely an innocent child. How could I have possibly invented such things? These are but mere fables woven by narrators to beguile the unwary masses. Ah, Mu Yao chuckled softly and remarked, it appears I too have fallen victim to the deceptions of these storytellers. At this juncture, Mu Yao lifted the teapot and poured a cup for Li Zai, nonchalantly inquiring, has the Li family ever contemplated forging alliances in the realms of perfume and glass? Here it comes. Upon hearing the words of the third prince, Li Zai's gaze suddenly sharpened. This was indeed the true intent behind the third prince's visit to Yuzhou City. The court, it seemed, truly desired to meddle in the affairs of the Li household. Alliances? Li Zai raised the cup of tea that the third prince had poured for him, took a sip, and donned a pensive expression. I seldom involve myself in familial matters. Yet my elder sister has indicated that the Li family is presently encountering a significant impediment in its commercial pursuits. To advance further, it is imperative to seek out appropriate business partners. Upon hearing this, a faint smile graced Mu Yao's lips. In the past 2 years, the court had been subtly constraining the Li family's trade. While the repercussions were limited, they nonetheless curtailed the family's unbridled expansion. However, this was merely the prelude. The court's ultimate intention was to seize the opportunity to intervene in the Li family's enterprises. For the Li family to persist in broadening its commercial influence, it would necessitate the court's endorsement. Indeed, there are several commendable prospects within the capital, endowed with substantial financial resources and exceptional connections. If Brother Li is amenable, I can facilitate introductions to them, Mu Yao proposed with keen insight. Oh, Li Zai brightened, asking, which families do you refer to? The Changsun family, the Commerce Alliance, and the Yin Banking House, Mu Yao responded. Li Zai's demeanor shifted to one of gravity upon absorbing this revelation. It became evident that these 3 commercial titans in the capital were all connected to the court. Acquiring this intelligence rendered the journey worthwhile. He was acutely aware that the third prince's readiness to disclose such information was laden with implications. These 3 entities represented the royal family's alternatives for the Li family, who had no recourse but to acquiesce. At the very least, prior to the Li family's formal disassociation from the royal lineage, they were obliged to uphold the dignity of the royal family. Your Highness, I must return to confer with my father and elder sister. I trust your Highness will grant me a day or 2. I shall assuredly provide you with a satisfactory response, Li Zai asserted, rising with respect. Very well, I shall await your favorable tidings, Mu Yao replied, standing to bid him farewell with a smile. Li Zai nodded and swiftly departed. In the study of the Li family's rear courtyard, Li Baiwan and Li Yuwei were engrossed in reconciling accounts, when Li Zai suddenly thrust the door open and entered. How dare you? Li Baiwan was on the verge of reprimanding him, yet upon recognizing his identity, his countenance immediately brightened. My son, what brings you here? It is rare for you to visit the study. Ignoring the newly prosperous man, Li Zai acknowledged Li Yuwei and inquired, do we engage in any commercial dealings with the Changsun family, the Commerce Alliance, or the Yin Banking House in the capital? We have some transactions with the Commerce Alliance and the Yin Banking House, but little with the Changsun family, Li Yuwei responded, her brow furrowing in confusion. They are supported by the court, Li Zai asserted gravely. The court? Li Baiwan and Li Yuwei exchanged apprehensive glances, their expressions darkening. Is this information confirmed? Li Baiwan inquired with gravity. The third prince himself has spoken. It must be true, Li Zai responded. If that is indeed the case, we find ourselves in a predicament, Li Yuwei remarked with seriousness. For years, we have endeavored to shield our family business from the encroachment of the court's influence, precisely to prevent being stifled by them. I never anticipated that their reach would extend this far. You need not worry excessively, Sister Yuwei, Li Zai replied earnestly. Wherever there are disadvantages, there also lie advantages. The court's eagerness to intervene in our affairs and their willingness to reveal certain information signifies that we must respond in kind. What does my younger brother imply? Liobi inkirad bawildarat. Did not the third prince present three options? The corners of Li Zai's mouth curled gently as he responded. The Li family's enterprises are extensive. It is only natural that the three families harbor envy. Regrettably, our family can only forge an alliance with one. My younger brother insinuates that we should allow them to engage in mutual discord. Li Yue proposed. Indeed, Sister Yue possesses the keenest insight. Humanity is motivated by self-interest. Even though the three families enjoy the support of the court, they cannot achieve complete unity. Li Zai agreed with a smile. Very well, you may manage these vexatious affairs. My aspirations lie in attaining the status of Sword Immortal. How is my elixir being prepared? It is nearly complete. I have also sent individuals to seek out the remaining elixirs in various cities. You need not fret, my younger brother, Li Yue responded softly. Ah, Sister Yue, you treat me the best. A hug, if you please. Li Zai stepped forward and embraced his elder sister, his spirits lifting considerably. Now, go and find your beloved. Li Yue gently tapped his forehead and smiled. My beloved? Li Zai released her, then quickly realized, are you referring to old Qin? Indeed, I shall inquire when she commences her training. I am on the brink of becoming a sword immortal. Ha ha ha, with a wild and audacious grin. Li Zai exited the study to seek out Qin Ana. Once he had departed, the warm smile that adorned Li Yue's face dissipated, her tone turning frigid as she remarked. Foster father, I believe my younger brother's proposal is rather astute. Let the royal sycophants of those three families engage in mutual destruction while we observe from a distance, seizing the opportunity to undermine their influence and gain ourselves some time. Indeed, it is a sagacious strategy. Li Million nodded in acquiescence, stating, if necessary, let Qingji operate from the shadows to amplify the suspicions among the three families. Is it second brother? Li Yue contemplated for a moment before nodding. There have been numerous occurrences within the manor recently. It is indeed time for second brother to return. However, if we can avoid revealing his identity, we should, as his true self, must remain concealed. It is widely acknowledged throughout the realm that the Li family comprises three siblings. Yet, the second-born, Li Qingji, is known by name alone, with little else disclosed about him. Even those within the Li household seldom encounter this second young master, let alone discern his true identity. However, she, her younger brother, and their foster father are privy to the truth. The foremost assassin organization in the Great Shang Dynasty, the Misty Rain Tower, has ascended swiftly over the past decade. Qingji is the master of the Misty Rain Tower, with the unparalleled financial strength of the Li family. The Misty Rain Tower has attracted numerous skilled individuals over the past 10 years, striving to counterbalance the court both overtly and covertly. The initial proposition to establish the Misty Rain Tower was advanced by her younger brother. Reflecting on this, Li Yue let out a soft sigh. It is precisely for this reason that the relationship between Qingji and her younger brother has always been fraught with tension. Qingji is a genuine martial prodigy, having attained a level of cultivation that rivals master-level warriors at such a tender age. Yet, due to her younger brother's proposal, he has spent the past decade cloaked in obscurity, his identity eternally concealed. To assert that Qingji bears no resentment would be implausible. She comprehends, as does her younger brother. Thus, the steadfast younger brother, who has never been one to accept defeat, consistently displayed forbearance towards his elder brother Qingji, never once contradicting him. By the lakeside in the backyard, Li Zai searched in vain for his ethereal master and could not help but inquire, Old Zhang, where is old Qin? At the water's edge, Zhang Laoda wore a chilling smile, his lips twisting into a smirk. Right behind you. You are deceiving, he said. Li Zai instinctively turned around and, upon glimpsing the woman behind him, his expression morphed into an obsequious grin. Master, when did you arrive? He inquired. Just now. What do you seek from me? The grand elixir is ready. When shall I commence my cultivation? Li Zai exclaimed, brimming with eagerness. Now, Qin Ana stated succinctly, then moved toward the nearby apothecary. So soon? Li Zai's visage reflected sheer astonishment as he hastily pursued her. As they approached the tranquil lakeside, Li Zai cast a cunning glance towards old Zhang, silently uttering, "I am on the brink of becoming a sword immortal." In response, Zhang Laoda remained unperturbed, feigning indifference with his eyes shut, pondering, "Child, merely await your doom." It is often said that women bear grudges, a sentiment that could not ring truer in this instance. He genuinely harbored doubts regarding the method conceived by Qin Ana, suspecting it to be an act of retribution, designed to orchestrate the downfall of this young man. The notion of shattering every meridian within him, only to mend them repeatedly 100 times. How delightful it is to contemplate. Within the apothecary, a grand bathtub had already been prepared, with servants incessantly pouring scalding water into it, followed by baskets filled with potent herbs. Disrobe, in the chamber, Qin Ana regarded the young man before her with an air of detachment. "Isn't that inappropriate?" Lizias con tenança batraía apalpable discomfort. The societal norms governing male-female interactions weighed heavily upon him, despite the adage that a teacher is akin to a mother. Yet, he was no longer a child. Enough with the nonsense. With a chilling laugh, Qin Ana refrained from further words, seizing his arm and swiftly rending his garments asunder, subsequently delivering a forceful blow that shattered the meridians in his right arm. A harrowing scream filled the room, piercing the air with its chilling resonance. In the next heartbeat, Qin Ana grasped Li Zai and callously hurled him into the medicinal vat. "Qin Ana, you vile woman!" Within the searing depths of the vat, Li Zai teetered on the brink of madness from the excruciating pain, unleashing a torrent of invectives. "You still possess the strength to curse. Indeed, a mere trifle of pain shall not be your demise." Qin Ana emitted a cold chuckle once again, stepping forward to seize another of Li Zai's arms. Exerting pressure as her formidable true energy surged forth, fracturing the meridians of his left arm. A pained cry echoed through the room, sending tremors of fear through the servants who passed by. Meanwhile, by the lakeside, Zhang Laoda took a sip of the intoxicating flower brew. His spirits buoyed as he hummed a lively melody. "The apricot blossom tree, adorned with its blooming white flowers, today the immortal graces my abode. The immortal tenderly touches my brow, bestowing upon me the gift of longevity." Chapter 8. Harmony Among Brothers. Li Qingji as the sun dipped below the horizon. Qin Ana emerged from the apothecary. Half an hour later, Li Zai was carried out, resembling a lifeless form. The servants of the Li residence were so overcome with fear that they scarcely dared to breathe. It had been many years since they had witnessed the young master in such a woeful condition. Upon receiving the news, Li Baiwan and Li Yue hurried to Li Zai's chamber, accompanied by the household physician. After examining Li Zai's pulse, the physician assured them that the young master had merely fainted from pain and was not gravely injured. A sigh of relief escaped Li Baiwan's lips upon hearing this. "Younger brother," Li Yue said, taking a seat beside the bedside, her heart heavy as she gazed at the unconscious Li Zai. A surge of anger towards Qin Ana surged within her. How could she have been so heartless as to employ such a harsh method to clear his meridians? Upon witnessing that Li Zai had emerged from peril, Li Baiwan and the physician took their leave, leaving only Li Yue by his bedside, where she lingered until the night grew late. "Younger brother," Li Zai murmured as he gradually regained consciousness, striving to open his eyes and recognizing the woman beside him. "You have awakened," Li Yue exclaimed with palpable joy, her concern unmistakable. "Does it still cause you pain?" "It no longer pains me." Li Zai responded with an affectation of lightness. "Sister Yue, it is late. You ought to retire for the night. There is no need for haste. I have prepared your cherished lotus seed porridge," she replied, rising to retrieve a bowl from the table and gently feeding him. As Li Zai silently savored the porridge, a bittersweet sensation enveloped his heart. Within the Li residence, if anyone had shown him the utmost kindness, it was undoubtedly his elder sister. Even his biological father often paled in comparison. Over the years, it was his sister who had diligently overseen the family's affairs, shouldering the weight of their business. Meanwhile, the legitimate son of the Li family had squandered his days in idleness, indulging in food and drink while dreaming of becoming an immortal swordsman. He harbored a profound sense of guilt towards his devoted sister. "Sister Yue," Li Zai began to speak. Rest now, and do not dwell on such matters, she gently interrupted. Perceiving his thoughts, as long as you find happiness, your elder sister will be content. With that, she excused herself and departed from the room. Li Zai lay quietly in bed, a newfound determination swelling within him. He comprehended the precarious circumstances surrounding the Li residence. The court was beginning to set its sights upon them, and with their current capabilities, they could not genuinely contend against imperial authority. However, if the Li family could produce one or two sword immortals, the situation would transform dramatically. Thus, regardless of the arduous journey that lay ahead, he resolved to persevere. The individuals he yearned to protect were all within the confines of the Li residence, and he could not permit their decline. After a sleepless night, as dawn broke the following day, Li Zai arose from his bed. At breakfast, he struggled to lift even the vegetables, his hands trembling, a clear indication that his shattered meridians had yet to fully mend. Do not rush, younger brother, Li Yue encouraged, placing the dishes before him. He nodded, hastily consuming a few bites before vacating the table. What troubles Zai? Li Baiwan inquirat, perplexa. The burdens of the younger brother weigh more heavily than we can fathom. Li Youbei siga souffly. Not far from the lake, before Qin Ana's chamber, Li Zai approached and knocked on the door, calling out, Master Fairy. With a soft creak, the door opened. Qin Ana regarded him with a flat expression and inquired, What is it? I am prepared. We may continue, Li Zai replied with a playful smile. Qin Ana cast a glance at him and coolly observed, Your meridians have not yet fully healed. Are you certain your body can endure this? Absolutely. Li Zai affirmed with a resolute nod. Then let us proceed. Qin Ana stated with unwavering certainty before departing from the room and making her way to the apothecary. Without a moment's hesitation, Li Zai trailed her closely. Half an hour later, anguish cries once again reverberated within the apothecary. The torment of shattered meridians was intolerable for anyone. Yet, the steadfast Li Zai endured the suffering with remarkable fortitude. By the lakeside, Zhang Lada quietly sipped from his flask, this time lacking any trace of malicious delight. The display of Li Zai's resilience had genuinely astonished him. He had presumed that after enduring such profound agony the previous day, the young man would withdraw. To his amazement, Li Zai's determination remained resolute. After a spell, the door swung open. Qin Ana emerged, a fine sheen of sweat adorning her forehead. Master Fairy, came Li Zai's voice from within the apothecary. Remarkably, he had not succumbed to unconsciousness this day. What is it? Qin Ana paused, her demeanor calm. Will you not teach me the sword? Li Zai inquired, his voice tinged with palpable fatigue. Can you still stand? Inquired Qin Ana. I can, responded Li Zai. Nodding in acknowledgement, Qin Ana chose to remain silent and continued on her way. Inside the apothecary, nearly half an hour elapsed before Li Zai finally emerged, slightly unsteady. After the medicinal bath, he presented himself well, his long hair elegantly tied back, resembling a distinguished gentleman of remarkable poise. By the lakeside, Qin Ana awaited his arrival. Upon seeing Li Zai approach, she asked, What is a sword? The monarch of weapons, replied Li Zai. Qin Ana frowned it. Incorrect. Try again. A sword is the king among soldiers, he answered once more. Still incorrect. Try again. Her tone had grown noticeably stern. Li Zai fell silent for a long moment before slowly articulating, A sword is a tool for killing. Indeed, Qin Ana nodded, and in that fleeting moment, her presence transformed. The atmosphere resonating with the intent of the sword, causing the serene lake to undulate. A sword, a mere instrument of lethality, serves a singular purpose regardless of the intricacy of its technique. As she articulated her thoughts, Qin Ana's right hand reached into the ether, and, as if summoned by her will, an ancient sword soared gracefully into her grasp. With a fluid motion, she brandished the sword, and in an instant, the air crackled with the energy of the blade, cleaving the lake's surface with a thunderous strike. Li Zai beheld this remarkable spectacle in awe. Although it was not his inaugural experience, he remained deeply moved. The essence of swordsmanship lies in swiftness, precision, and concentration. The foundational techniques of the sword are merely a swing, a cut, and a thrust. Qin Ana elucidated calmly, from this day forward, You need only to master 3 movements: swing, slash, and thrust. Practice them 1,000 times each day without fail until your swordplay becomes second nature, stripped of any superfluous actions or mistakes. Understood? Li Zai clasped his fists and bowed respectfully in response. Noticing the boy's formal bow for the first time, Qin Ana's expression softened ever so slightly. If you can attain the level I have described, even if you ultimately fail to open your meridians within the Great Shang Dynasty, few can disregard the might of your sword, save for a select few martial masters. Not far away, Zhang Lada sipped his wine in silence, uttering not a word. Indeed, Qin Ana's words bore weight. However, those capable of mastering the sword to such an extent are exceedingly rare. Though her aspirations painted a grand vision, at least offered the young man a glimmer of hope. By the lakeside, having absorbed Qin Ana's words, Li Zai felt a surge of confidence. This sword, named Qing may be borrowed by you, Qin Ana declared as she handed the ancient blade to the young man. However, every sword practitioner must possess their own weapon, so you must seek out a sword that truly belongs to you. Li Zai accepted the Qing with a gentle nod, expressing his gratitude. Thank you, fairy. Qin Ana inclined her head and spoke no further, turning to depart. Li Zai remained by the lake, commencing his practice with each deliberate move and stance. You actually lent him your sword. It seems he holds a special place in your heart, Zhang Lada remarked, taking a sip of his drink. I didn't expect you to acknowledge him so swiftly. Once he emerged from the apothecary, he earned the right to learn the sword from me. Qin Ana replied nonchalantly. Do you genuinely believe he can tread the path of martial arts? Zhang Lada inquired earnestly. I do not know, Qin Ana responded with composure. However, based on his performance today, it seems that unless he meets his untimely demise, he shall not relent. Why forsake a life of comfort to embrace the rigors of martial arts, only to endure hardship? Zhang Lada jested lightly, opting not to elaborate further. Qin Ana remained silent, her gaze fixed upon the young man ahead. Each individual harbors their own convictions, and perhaps he possesses something precious, compelling him to strive with such fervor. As the sun descended beneath the horizon, Li Zai persevered in his practice by the lakeside, drenched in perspiration, his garments and hair clinging to his form. The meridians in his arms had yet to fully mend. With each swing of the sword, he endured a pain that pierced to the very marrow. A faint trickle of blood seeped forth, staining his sleeves a deep crimson. Little brother from a distance, Li Yue beheld this scene with a heavy heart, understanding her brother's temperament and choosing to refrain from intervening. It was not until sunset, after completing 1,000 repetitions, that Li Zai staggered back to his chamber, collapsing onto the bed, his consciousness fading into a haze. As the final rays of sunlight vanished and night enveloped the land, Zhang Lada, preparing to return to his quarters for rest, suddenly felt a chill and turned his gaze toward the encroaching darkness. A master. From the shadows emerged a young man draped in a silver-gray robe, his demeanor stern and devoid of a smile, exuding an icy aura that sent shivers down one's spine. Second young master. Upon the arrival of visitors, the servants within the estate were initially taken aback, yet soon hastened to pay their respects. Li Qingji paid them no mind and proceeded directly towards the study. By the lakeside, Zhang Lada squinted slightly. So, this is the legendary second son of the Li family? At such a tender age, he possesses remarkable prowess. In the study, Li Qingji entered and respectfully greeted father, elder sister. Qingji, responded Li Baiwan and Li Yue, their expressions softening upon his arrival. May I inquire why you summoned me back, father? Li Qingji asked calmly. Let your elder sister explain. Li Baiwan gestured towards Li Yue. Indeed, Li Yue nodded, her gaze fixed upon the young man before her. Qingji, you are aware of the third prince's impending visit to Yuzhou City. Do you comprehend that? In addition to his desire to apprentice under Qin Ana, he harbors ulterior motives for this journey? I do not, Li Qingji replied, shaking his head. He seeks to assess the strengths and vulnerabilities of the Li family, and under the pretense of the royal family, aims to interfere in our business affairs. Li Yue declared gravely. The Changsun family in the capital, the Merchant Alliance, and the Yin family's financial establishment are the options presented to us by the third prince. We are left with no alternative but to make a selection. Li Qingji fell into silence, and, after a moment, he spoke. What would you have me do, elder sister? In a few days, I shall journey to the capital to engage in discussions regarding business collaborations with these three families. I require you to discreetly dispatch someone to undermine their relationships during that time. Can you manage this? Li Yue responded with composure. Li Qingji contemplated briefly before affirming. I can undertake that. Qingji, this responsibility must be delegated to others. You cannot engage personally, Li Baiwan interjected, offering a prudent reminder. Understood. Father, Li Qingji replied with respect. Proceed now. Li Baiwan gestured with his hand. Taking his leave, Li Qingji bowed and swiftly turned to depart. Li Baiwan rose and approached the threshold of the study. Observing the retreating figure with a sigh, Qingji's demeanor became increasingly frigid. Should any misfortune befall me in the future, only Yue will possess the ability to restrain him. Father, Li Yue began. Although Qingji harbors resentment, he ultimately holds the well-being of the Li family dear, and he does harbor some affection for his younger brother. Perhaps, Li Baiwan replied with a wry smile, acknowledging that while he could not speak for others, he was certain that Qingji would extend no kindness towards Yi. The following morning, Li Ziyi practiced swordsmanship by the lake. At that moment, on the opposite shore, Li Qingji approached, adorned in a silver-gray robe. As Li Ziyi was about to extend a greeting, he experienced a sudden blur before his eyes and instinctively raised his sword in defense. In the blink of an eye, Li Qingji had traversed the distance and, with his right hand thrusting forward like a spear, struck at Li Ziyi's sword hand. With a resounding thud, Li Ziyi felt a jolt of numbness in his right hand, causing his ancient sword to slip from his grasp. To be unable to maintain hold of your own sword. What a lamentable waste. Li Qingji uttered a chilling remark before pivoting on her heel and departing. Chapter 9. A minor trial. Not dangerous, not far from the shimmering edge of the lake. Qin Ana and Zhang Lada observed the unfolding scene, exchanging silent glances laden with unspoken thoughts. The second son of the Li family is indeed remarkable. At such a tender age, his prowess is nothing short of formidable. By the tranquil lakeside, Li Zai quietly retrieved the sword from the ground, his usual obstinacy in the face of loss leaving him momentarily speechless. Qingji, Li Yue called softly, her gaze catching sight of Li Qingji approaching from the distance. My younger brother has been striving diligently. I implore you to grant him a little more time. Eldest sister, how long can you and our adoptive father shield him? Li Qingji responded with an air of indifference. If he were to persist in his current state of ineptitude, the Li estate would surely descend into ruin under his stewardship. Much of the estate's present condition can be attributed to my brother's diligent efforts. He is also striving to protect this family. Qingji, I implore you to grant him a measure of patience and time. Li Yue sighed softly. Indeed, he has bestowed honor upon the Li estate, yet his failure to defend it stands as his gravest transgression. Li Qingji retorted coldly, his gaze lingering on the youth by the lakeshore. At the water's edge, Li Zai returned the sword to Qin Ana. Fairy, may I request a half-day leave? I shall compensate for the sessions I have missed upon my return, Li Zai inquired. Proceed, Qin Ana replied with no further questions, accepting the ancient sword with a nod. Thank you, Fairy, Li Zai expressed his gratitude and stepped away into the distance. Second brother, Li Zai called out as he approached, his demeanor light-hearted despite having recently endured a reprimand. You have returned, Li Qingji observed, regarding the youth before him with a cool demeanor. Have you completed your sword practice? Not yet, Li Zai admitted. I previously promised the third prince a response within these 2 days, he added. Your eldest sister is heading to the capital. Are you aware of this matter? Li Qingzi inquired. Yes, Li Zai confirmed with a nod. The capital holds profound complexities. This responsibility should rightfully rest upon your shoulders as the legitimate heir. However, due to your inaction, it must now be entrusted to your eldest sister. Do you grasp the implications of this? Li Qingji's voice was frigid. You are correct, second brother. Li Zai accepted the criticism with humility. While our eldest sister journeys to the capital, I shall quietly accompany her. You are to oversee matters here in Yuzhou City, Li Qingji stated with composure. Rest assured, second brother. Li Zai nodded fervently, appearing exceedingly compliant, a stark contrast to the unruly young master of the Li family. Exercise caution. The third prince is both cunning and astute, Li Qingji advised, his tone softening ever so slightly. Thank you for your concern, second brother. I shall be vigilant. Pleased by the rare display of affection from his elder brother, Li Zai responded with cheerfulness and promptly took his leave. You are too severe with our younger brother, Li Yue remarked helplessly as she observed him depart. In truth, he holds you in great esteem. Each time you return, he is filled with joy for an extended period. He is the sole legitimate heir of the Li family and must bear greater responsibilities than others. It is his destiny, Li Qingji replied calmly. By the way, I shall seek out a sword for him. I have heard that several exquisite ancient swords have emerged in the East Sea and southern frontier. If time permits, I shall personally embark on a journey. You always present a tough exterior, but possess a tender heart within, Li Yue remarked gently. At the Well-I Inn, in the second-floor guest room, the third prince, Mu Yao, meticulously tied his hair and adjusted his garments before descending the stairs. Outside the inn, Li Zai awaited. Your Highness, please. Upon encountering the newcomer, Li Zai greeted him with utmost courtesy. Brother Li, please. Mu Yao reciprocated with equal politeness. The two exchanged a warm smile before proceeding side by side. The customs of Yuzhou City, in contrast to those of the capital, are characterized by a certain simplicity, yet harbor an undeniable fierceness. The streets thrummed with vitality, with children occasionally playing and frolicking amidst the bustling crowd. What are your thoughts on my suggestion, Brother Li? Mu Yao inquired nonchalantly, his gaze meandering over the rich tapestry of local culture. Your Highness's goodwill is graciously embraced by the Li family, Li Zai responded. My elder sister will soon embark on a journey to the capital to discuss matters of collaboration with the three families. Oh, Mu Yao's expression betrayed his surprise as he remarked, Is it your esteemed elder sister? Will you not accompany her? The affairs of the Li family have traditionally been overseen by my elder sister and father. Due to my father's advanced age, he is unable to travel far. Thus my sister will undertake the journey in his place, Li Zai elucidated with a smile. That is indeed unfortunate, Mu Yao remarked with a touch of regret. I had hoped to extend my hospitality in the capital and share a drink with you. Fear not. I shall undoubtedly visit your Highness in the capital when the opportunity presents itself, Li Zai assured. Mu Yao nodded, a subtle smile adorning his lips, choosing not to elaborate further. It was indeed a pity that the legitimate son of the Li family would not accompany them. It was said that the bond between the Li siblings was remarkably strong. Whenever Li Yue encountered difficulties, one could be certain that this young man would journey to the capital. After wandering for a while, Mu Yao turned to the young man beside him and inquired, By the way, when will your sister set off? In but a few days, Li Zai responded. How fortunate indeed. I have been away from the capital for quite some time. It is most opportune that I return, Mu Yao remarked. I shall embark on the journey alongside your sister, so we may care for one another along the way. That would be splendid. I am grateful for your Highness's thoughtful consideration, Li Zai replied with a smile. Not at all, Mu Yao countered. With formalities concluded, the two engaged in superficial pleasantries, exchanging inquiries and responses, each seeking valuable insights. Both were discerning individuals, thus, despite the artifice woven into their dialogue, they appeared as long-standing friends, relishing a spirited conversation. After midday, Li Zai resolutely parted ways with the third prince, each returning to their respective abodes. In the rear courtyard of the Li residence, Li Zai drew near and settled beside old Zhang, wiping the perspiration from his brow as he prepared to rest for a moment. How is it that a simple stroll has left you so wearied? Old Zhang approached with a disheveled demeanor. Engaging in discourse with someone as astute as the third prince is indeed taxing, Li Zai lamented. You possess the audacity to critique the cunning of others. I dare assert that the most shrewd individual in Yuzhou City is none other than yourself. Old Zhang responded with a sardonic grin. Old Zhang, you harbor a significant misunderstanding of my character, Li Zai asserted earnestly. I have consistently treated others with utmost sincerity. Huh? Old Zhang scoffed. Not even the dogs of Yuzhou City would be swayed by that claim. Li Zai opened his mouth, poised to counter, when suddenly he felt a chill traverse his spine as an ancient sword soared towards him, embedding itself firmly in the ground before him. Has the sword practice reached its conclusion? From behind, a haunting voice resonated, its melodic quality sending shivers down one's spine. In an instant, Li Zai sprang to his feet, unsheathing his sword and returning to his practice. Zhang Lada savored a sip of wine, a subtle smile gracing his lips. Kingana sotod nearbi. Her gaze fixed upon a youth not far off, her eyes glimmering as if ensnared in deep reflection. Jin Qi, what are your thoughts on my quest to find him an adversary? After a prolonged silence, Qin Ana posed the question. Are you intending to take his life? Zhang Lada replied in astonishment. He has only practiced swordsmanship for a mere few days. Even with daily nurturing of his meridians through true energy and potent elixirs, his channels remain unconnected, rendering him incapable of proper cultivation. Moreover, swords and blades are indiscriminate. Seeking a worthy opponent for him now is akin to wishing for his demise. Qin Ana remained silent for a moment before responding. Without refinement, jade cannot transform into a gem. If he persists in this manner of training, even a decade hence, he will not be able to match Woliner. To hasten his progress, he must engage in genuine combat. I have heard there are numerous bandits in the mountains north of Yuzhou City. In a few days, I shall send him there. Upon hearing this, Zhang Lada's mouth twitched. This woman truly appeared intent on trifling with the boy's life. Those bandits were seasoned warriors, fierce and merciless. Given the boy's current capabilities, such an expedition would amount to a death sentence. Oblivious to the grim fate that awaited him, Li Zai continued to practice his swordplay, lost in joy. Meanwhile, the others in the manor busied themselves preparing for Li Youwei's journey to the capital, bustling with activity. In the ensuing 7 days, Li Zai oscillated between immersing himself in medicinal baths and honing his swordsmanship, enduring rigorous trials that nearly brought him to the brink of collapse on multiple occasions. Nevertheless, through this harrowing ordeal, the strength of his meridians and physique surged, surpassing that of ordinary individuals and drawing ever nearer to the realm of true warriors. At long last, the day of Li Youwei's departure had arrived. Li Baiwan personally went to see her off, accompanying her until they reached the outskirts of Yuzhou City. Yet Li Zai, who shared the most profound bond with Li Youwei, remained conspicuously absent. Are you not going to bid farewell to your elder sister? In the rear courtyard of the Li residence, beside the tranquil lake, Zhang Lada casually inquired while observing the youth ardently honing his swordsmanship. I shall not go. Second brother is discreetly safeguarding her, Li Zai replied, continuing his rigorous training. Zhang Lada chuckled, noting that this young man possessed a temperament even more peculiar than his own. At that moment, Qin Ana approached and said, Come with me. Where to? Li Alta, Bawildarat. I have devised a training regimen for you. Qin Ana responded. Is it perilous? Lizia instinctively castionat. Merely a minor trial, not dangerous at all. Qin Ana replied nonchalantly. Yet, for her, it was indeed not hazardous. However, for this young man, who could truly say? Upon hearing this, Li Zai sheathed his sword and eagerly followed her. Zhang Lada sat by the lake, observing the two depart, his expression illuminated by a sense of schadenfreude. How had he never before perceived that this ethereal plum blossom sword immortal harbored such a cunning nature? It was indeed apparent that like a Trax-like, north of Yuzhou City, before the majestic Chilean mountains, a carriage rumbled into view. Qin Ana dismounted from the carriage, gazing at the distant cliffs, and remarked, Upon that precipice resides a blood ginseng, a potent herb that could significantly aid in your meridian restoration. If you can procure it, I am confident I can open a meridian for you in a brief span of time. Is that true? Behind her, Li Zai mirrored her actions, his gaze transfixed upon the towering cliffs, his face aglow with anticipation. It was precisely the obstruction of his 8 meridians that had thwarted his cultivation efforts. Should he manage to unblock even a single one, while he may not surpass the innate talents of others, he could at least set foot upon the path of enlightenment. Indeed, Qin Ana nodded, maintaining an air of composure. Very well, I shall proceed at once, Li Zai proclaimed, promptly embarking towards the mountain range. Wait a moment. Qin Ana interjected, extending her hand to present him with her sword. Take this. It is merely for herb gathering. A sword is unnecessary, Li Zai replied, taken aback. Just take it. Qin Aina insisted, offering no further explanation. With a sense of bewilderment, Li Zai accepted the sword without further hesitation and turned to venture into the mountains. Outside the Chilean mountains, Qin Aina watched his diminishing figure, a soft smile gracing her lips. With a swift leap, she gracefully navigated through the forest, delving deeper into the mountains. Half an hour later, deep within the Chilean mountains, near a campsite not far from the cliffs, Qin Aina arrived, alighting upon a branch. She plucked a fallen leaf and then sent it soaring toward the camp. Boom! As the leaf gracefully descended through the air, it collided with a wooden pillar, causing it to splinter and precipitating a collapse at one corner of the encampment. Who goes there? A robust man with a grotesque countenance sprang upright from within the camp, emerging with a thunderous voice. What are you all idling for? Go investigate. Several bandits promptly complied, hastening out to discern the source of the commotion. Perched upon a branch, Qin Aina moved with a lightness that belied her presence, departing unperturbed beneath the watchful eyes of the bandits. After her, the man bellowed in rage. Meanwhile, Li Zai, completely oblivious to the chaos unfolding around him, had finally ascended to the precipice in utter exhaustion. Blood ginseng. He scanned his surroundings, seeking the elusive trace of the blood ginseng as guided by Qin Aina's directions. Where could it be? As Li Zai continued his search, a furious shout erupted nearby. There she is. In that instant, a dozen bandits charged towards him like feral beasts. Damn it! Li Zai's countenance transformed into one of profound alarm. He had been duped by Qin. It was no surprise that she had so adamantly urged him to take the sword. He was no simpleton. Should he continue to be blind to the circumstances at this juncture, he might as well invite a donkey to strike his head. Beholding the frenzied bandits rushing towards him, Li Zai regained his composure and, without a moment's hesitation, turned to flee. Curse be you, Qin. Chapter 10. Li's overconfidence in the Chilean mountains. More than a dozen bandits, brandishing knives, roamed the forest, emanating a fierce and menacing aura. Not far away, Li Zai crouched warily behind a large rock, quaking like a small creature tormented by others. Qin Aina, you detestable woman. Li Zai seethed inwardly, exasperated by the treachery of his master. When women harbor grudges, they become utterly inscrutable. Amidst the rocky terrain, Li Zai cautiously emerged, surveying the positions of several bandits, his mind racing with plans for escape. The sky teetered on the edge of dusk, and soon after the sun dipped below the horizon, he would slip away under the cloak of night. Ah, Qin Aina, you seek to ensnare me, yet you remain so youthful. Just as Li Zai reveled in his own cleverness, a blade of sword energy sliced through the air from a distance, crashing against the boulder before him with a resounding thunder. The deafening noise immediately startled the nearby bandits, numbering 4 or 5. Li Zai was momentarily stunned, but swiftly regained his composure, his face contorted with rage as he shouted, Qin Aina, I curse you. With that, he sprang to his feet and fled with all his might. There he is, brothers. Cut him down. The 5 brigands, upon witnessing Li Zai hastily retreat from the boulder, pursued him with fervent zeal. In the distance, amidst the treetops, a graceful silhouette stood poised, observing the fleeing youth within the forest, a subtle smile gracing her lips. The sun descended upon the horizon, casting elongated shadows that deepened within the woods. Boy, meet your demise, one of the bandits exclaimed as he caught up to Li Zai, swinging his iron blade with malicious intent. In a moment of desperation, Li Zai rolled to the side, narrowly evading the blade's lethal edge. Though his escape was far from elegant. Worthless scoundrel. The bandit guffawed, delivering a swift kick. On the ground, Li Zai hastily raised his sword in a futile defense. Yet the force of the bandit's kick sent him tumbling several meters away. From a distance, Qin Aina observed the unfolding scene, her brows knitting together in concern. Had this boy truly forgotten all that she had imparted to him? A sword is not wielded in such a manner. It appeared she had been astute to permit him entry into the mountains to confront these brigands, without the trials of life and death encounters. No measure of physical prowess or mastery of swordsmanship would be adequate. Within the depths of the forest, Li Zai, stripped of any combat experience, was being toyed with mercilessly by the bandits, incapable of mounting any effective resistance. Not far off, several more brigands, attracted by the tumult, were hastening to join the skirmish. Observe his attire, his delicate complexion. He is undoubtedly the offspring of a prosperous lineage. Huh! Rather than relishing a life of ease, he opts to court death. Very well. I shall oblige. Before Li Zai, the bandit, delighting in the boy's disheveled state, approached menacingly, iron blade in hand. 10 paces away, Li Zai glared at the advancing brigand, a fire igniting in his eyes. With the spirit of youth, how could he readily concede defeat? This marauder was not a practitioner of martial arts. He was simply an unremarkable man, akin to Li Zai. If he could not triumph over such an adversary, what merit lay in the pursuit of martial arts? 10 paces, 5 paces, 3 paces, closing in. Li Zai steadied his breath, compelling himself to maintain composure in the face of imminent danger. At a mere 3 paces, Li Zai, who had been crouched low, suddenly sprang into action, drawing his sword and striking in the blink of an eye. Swish! In the waning light of the sunset, the blade shimmered like a startled swan, sealing the bandit's fate. In the distance, upon the treetops, Qin and his eyes sparkled with fascination. Quite impressive. You. In the heart of the forest, the bandit grasped his gushing throat, his mouth agape, as if to articulate a thought, yet no words emerged. He crumpled to the earth. Evildoers invariably meet their demise through incessant prattle. Li Zai murmured feebly as he sank to the ground, his gaze fixed upon the bandit sprawled in a pool of crimson. Is this the sensation of extinguishing a life? It certainly evokes a profound discomfort. Old 9. At that moment, 3 bandits surged forth from the distance, their faces twisted in fury upon witnessing the grim tableau. Upon seeing the trio approach, Li Zai summoned the strength to rise and, without uttering a word, turned to flee. He was not yet prepared to confront 3 adversaries. Chase! The 3 bandits swiftly pursued him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, darkness shrouded the mountainous forest. The bandits ignited torches, persisting in their relentless search through the woods, seemingly resolute in their determination to locate Li Zai. Indeed, a chilling presence, Li Zai murmured, watching the dancing lights of the torches amid the trees, a shiver coursing through his veins. Faced with multiple assailants simultaneously, he undeniably sensed a strain. However, the cloak of night bestowed upon him the boon of stealth, revealing the adversaries while he remained concealed, a perfect moment to vanquish them one by one. With this contemplation, Li Zai crouched low, harnessing the shadows and the foliage, stealthily advancing towards the nearest bandit. Swish! In the murky depths of night, Li Zai silently approached the bandit's rear, swiftly silencing him with a hand over his mouth before deftly slicing through his throat with a blade. Ugh! The bandit quaked, his mouth agape, before swiftly yielding to silence. After vanquishing 2 adversaries, an inexplicable wave of nausea enveloped Li Zai, yet he suppressed it and retreated once more into the underbrush. In this epic of survival of the fittest, he must adapt. Should he abstain from taking lives, his own would surely be forfeit this day. Amidst the foliage, Li Zai wiped the blood from his hands, meticulously regulating his breath, his gaze fixed upon the flickering lights ahead. His eyes gradually transformed, growing cold and fierce, akin to a predator fixated upon its prey. Through the crucible of life and death, Li Zai's mindset began to metamorphose. Tension and fear receded, supplanted by an increasing calm amidst peril. From a distance, within the shadows of the trees, Qin Aina beheld the transformation within Li Zai, feeling a sense of relief as her gaze shifted toward the bandit encampment in the far distance. Now, she could confidently attend to her own affairs. Concerning the Blood Ginseng King, she had uttered no falsehood. During her prior expedition into the mountains, that precious ginseng had indeed flourished upon a precipice. Truth be told, she was astonished upon first encountering that rare herb. Its scarcity surpassed all expectations, incomparable to any other medicinal plant. To refine Li Zai's abilities, she had refrained from harvesting it. Little did she anticipate that upon her return today, the blood ginseng would be absent from a cliff. The only plausible explanation was that the bandits dwelling within the mountain had discovered and appropriated it, concealing it within their encampment. She fervently hoped that fortune favored this young man, and that the ginseng had yet to be consumed. Otherwise, the quest for another such precious herb would prove far more arduous than she had foreseen. With this thought, Qin Aina tread lightly, leaping through the forest towards the distant bandit encampment. Moments later, deep within the woods, before the encampment, a graceful figure glided through the air, akin to a startled swan, swiftly arriving within the confines of the camp. Inside the encampment, most of the bandits had succumbed to slumber, with only a few patrolling the grounds. Qin Aina deftly evaded the patrolling bandits, commencing her search for the whereabouts of the blood ginseng. Within the camp, treasures of gold, silver, and precious gems lay in abundance, stacked in boxes, evidence that these brigands had engaged in considerable plunder. Regarding gold and silver, Qin Aina did not spare them a glance, not out of indifference, but rather disdain. No matter how affluent these bandits were, could they possibly rival her ineffectual disciple's fortune? Disregarding the precious metals, Qin Aina shifted her gaze towards several chests brimming with herbs, methodically sifting through their contents. Within, a wealth of medicinal plants awaited her: ginseng, deer antler, and He-Shou Wu, all meticulously arranged. At last, she had found it. After an exhaustive search, she opened an exquisite wooden box, and upon beholding the blood-red ginseng within, a sigh of relief escaped her lips. The lad was fortunate. The invaluable herb had remained unscathed by these ruffians. Who goes there? At that moment, an irate voice erupted from within the camp. A hulking brute, his features contorted in rage, sprang from a nearby tiger skin chair, seizing a wine jar and hurling it towards her. Unfazed, Qin Aina leisurely tucked away the blood ginseng, slightly inclining her body to evade the airborne jar. You dare to pilfer from me, woman? You must be weary of living. In the flickering glow of the fire, the brute was unable to perceive Qin Aina's visage. With a forceful stamp, he launched himself ahead like a cannonball. How wearisome! Qin Aina furrowed her brow slightly, deftly sweeping her hand. In an instant, a powerful sword aura cleaved through the air, propelling the brute several dozen feet away with a thunderous impact. Poof! The brute fell heavily, blood gushing from his mouth as disbelief enveloped his expression. How could this be conceivable? I shall spare you today. Rest assured. Someone will come for your life in due course. Qin Aina remarked with serene composure before turning to leave. The leader of these brigands was a martial artist possessing concealed strength, neither excessively formidable nor feeble, an ideal adversary for that young man. Her master indeed harbored the noblest of intentions. As she navigated the moonlit forest, Qin Aina wandered for an extended period without encountering Li Zai or any of the bandits. The path was marred with blood, staining the woods a deep crimson. A flicker of curiosity illuminated her gaze as she approached the forest periphery. There, she beheld a gaunt figure seated, drenched in blood, gasping for breath. Where is everyone? Qin Aina inquired as she drew near. They are all deceased, Li Zai responded wearily. Qin Aina narrowed her eyes, as anticipated. She had underestimated him. This young man was far more merciless than she had foreseen. At the edge of the forest, Li Zai inhaled deeply, casting a glance at the woman beside him. Master, you orchestrated this deliberately, he exclaimed. Indeed, Qin Aina replied, her tone devoid of evasion. Confronted with her forthright acknowledgement, Li Zai found himself momentarily speechless. What is it like, your initial encounter with taking a life? Qin Aina inquired. Distasteful, Li Zai answered candidly. Feeling somewhat queasy. You shall become accustomed to it, Qin Aina remarked matter-of-factly, then proceeded towards the carriage awaiting them at the forest's edge. Let's return. Li Zai nodded, rising to accompany her. Master, beneath the silvery moonlight, the carriage creaked onward, and within its embrace, Li Zai's voice echoed. What is it? Qin Aina replied, If I were to meet my demise at the hands of those brigands, would you take action? Li Zia inkida tazitanli. I cannot say. Qin Aina responded with composure. You may test it. Li Zai fell into silence, acutely aware of the fragility of his existence. He did not dare to take such a risk. The atmosphere within the carriage became increasingly grave. After a prolonged silence, Qin Aina resumed speaking, her tone indifferent. From this day forward, in addition to your sword training, You shall accompany me into the mountains to vanquish bandits. Let me remind you, their leader is a martial artist in possession of a divine treasure. A martial artist? Li Zai was taken aback, promptly conceding, Master, I acknowledge my inadequacy. Let the authorities address the eradication of the bandits. This matter is settled in my mind. No further discourse is warranted. With that, Qin Ana nonchalantly tossed a wooden box in his direction. Confounded, Li Zai opened the box and was greeted by the sight of a blood ginseng, his countenance illuminating with joy. Master, you are remarkable. A hug. In his exuberance, he nearly forgot his own name and reached out to embrace her. However, Qin Ana's gaze turned frigid, and it felt as if the very atmosphere within the carriage had solidified. Li Zai shivered slightly, swiftly recognizing his blunder. His arms froze in place. Suddenly, a tremendous surge of energy erupted from the carriage, fracturing its confines. Li Zai was violently thrust out, landing in a disordered heap. Under the moonlight, the carriage hastily rolled away. Chapter 11. Unveiling the meridians. As dawn broke over Yuzhou City, Li Zai ambled forth, soaked in dew and in a state of utter disarray. After a long night, he had finally returned. To offend a woman is one matter, yet to provoke a woman as formidable as Qin Ana is an entirely different affair. Chapter 12. A pig at the Li residence. In a rare moment of tranquility, Li Zai lounged by the lakeside for an entire afternoon, reluctant to exert himself. As the afternoon unfolded, Qin Ana emerged from her chamber, adorned in a pristine ensemble, radiating an otherworldly elegance and unmatched beauty. Chapter 13. Divine treasure. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the sky became a canvas adorned with countless stars. After honing his swordsmanship, Li Zai left the Li residence, yet he had not returned. In the rear courtyard, Zhang Lada took a hearty sip of wine, his gaze fixed upon the tranquil lake surface, idly inquiring, will you not join? Chapter 14. The Rosewood Box. Where is that young man? You are all completely inept. As darkness descended, Li Zai, still fuming from a stern admonition by the sword enthusiast, charged into the Chilean mountains in pursuit of. Chapter 15. Fiery divine iron. Before him lay a rosewood box, within which a pitch-black stone rested quietly, appearing unremarkable. However, upon seeing the stone, Zhang Lada's expression shifted, revealing a rare transformation. What? Chapter 16. The Celestial Ascension Technique at the Li residence. 5 days had elapsed since Li Zai endured a brutal beating at the hands of the bandit leader. Throughout this period, in addition to the torment inflicted by Qin Ana, he immersed himself in medicinal baths, dedicating himself with unwavering commitment to the cultivation of the Celestial Ascension Technique. Chapter 17. Murong. In the majestic capital of the Great Shang. At Wangxiang Tower, 2 women occupy a table by the window on the second floor, their gazes fixed upon the vibrant tapestry of the great merchant city. Their exquisite beauty inevitably captivates the attention of passers-by. Chapter 18. The young man grows up as dusk envelopes the sky. The sun begins its gradual descent. Before the mountains, the bandit leader quivers at Li Zai's inquiry, having astonishingly recognized the stone as fiery iron essence. Chapter 19. Are you comfortable? Let me ascertain whether you have truly matured. In the chamber, as she observes the young master's awkward demeanor, Hongzhu grows bolder, stepping forward to unfasten his garment. Chapter 20. The scholar, Confucius the Knight, is enchanting, and the individuals within it even more so. By the lakeside, a gentle breeze caresses the scene as Hongzhu, adorned in a flowing red robe, sits gracefully, her profile exquisite and captivating. Li Zai sits beside her, inhaling the refreshing fragrance that lingers in the air. Chapter 21. The beginning of concealment. Plop. The sound of something plunging into the water resonated from the rear courtyard of the Li residence, sending cascades of water soaring high. Oh, for the 10th time. Zhang Lada chuckles wickedly by the lakeside. Chapter 22. The weight of matrimony in the great merchant city. At Li Garden, Li Yue arrives at her newly acquired estate, which serves as the cornerstone for the Li family in the capital. Once a fresh and elegant dwelling, it has undergone a significant transformation due to the influence of a single individual. Chapter 23. A reunion at the residence of the third prince. Mu Yao meticulously examines the intelligence laid before him, his countenance grave. Li Zai has indeed arrived, even sooner than he had anticipated. Your Highness, the heir has proceeded to Li Garden. Chapter 24. Tao Yao Yao within the capital. Li Zai and Mu Yao leisurely wander for half a day, rekindling old friendships and engaging in spirited conversation. During their stroll, Li Zai takes particular notice of the 10 mansions situated in various directions throughout the city. Chapter 25. The Scholar's Authority in the Imperial Academy. Within the Confucian Law Enforcement Hall, the atmosphere is stifling, bordering on oppressive. The 4 chief officials don frigid expressions, feigning seriousness, and remain silent. An edict from above dictates that today they must intentionally seek out discord. Chapter 26. The fox borrowing the tiger's might early the following morning. As dawn breaks, Li Zai hastens to the west wing to spar with Bai Wanyu. The outcome is perhaps best left unspoken. The flying immortal technique you employed earlier, Brother Li, is renowned as the most arduous to master in the world. Chapter 27. Changsun Nanxiao outside the apricot orchard. Changsun Nanxiao's remark leaves Li Zai utterly speechless. Are all women so audacious in these times? I am still quite youthful. Might you consider waiting a few years? Chapter 28. The land of fireworks. As the evening breeze gently caresses, the Xiang River flows abundantly, with flower-laden boats anchored in its waters, and blossoms vying for attention along the banks. Shihua Garden, famed as a sanctuary of fireworks by the Xiang River, witnesses a ceaseless influx of officials and nobles, each extravagantly spending in hopes of eliciting a smile from a captivating beauty. Chapter 29. Conversing with the courtesan, how audacious! A rustic simpleton dares to ridicule us. The visage of a newly wealthy individual, begone from the capital. Qingxian Ferry. This individual conceals a malevolent intent. I implore you to exercise utmost caution. Chapter 30. Continuing the discourse with the courtesan at dawn in Li Garden, Li Zai had once again disappeared. In the serene southeastern quarter of the capital, a realm untouched by the grandeur of opulent palaces or lavish celebrations, tranquility reigned. Chapter 31. The most handsome is still the senior brother in this tranquil southeastern part of the capital, where the Xiang River meanders. Li Zai sat in an unpretentious courtyard, pen in hand, meticulously transcribing the score of Guangling San. The elegance of his calligraphy was truly remarkable. After completing the transcription, Li Zai cast his gaze upon the stone table. Chapter 32. Breaking through the barrier in the serene eastern courtyard of the Taishua Palace, the autumn air grew crisp, causing the flowers and vegetables to wither significantly. Nevertheless, the elder persevered in tending to the garden daily, unwaveringly, year after year. Chapter 33. Changsun Nanjiao's proposal. Within the inner courtyard of the garden, the essence of heaven and earth surged tumultuously into the herbarium. Inside, Li Zai's body quaked as the diminutive world within his chest resonated with thunder, the sea of true essence roiling chaotically, while boundless spiritual energy streamed in. Chapter 34. The deceiver. As Changsun Nanjiao departed from the garden, his countenance was markedly less favorable than upon his arrival. Li Zai's indifference had thoroughly exasperated Changsun Nanjiao, inciting his indignation. Soon, Changsun Nanjiao found himself at a disadvantage within Li Garden. Chapter 35. Love has never been retained in the west wing of Li Garden. Bang! Li Zai once again challenged his senior brother to a duel, only to be sent sprawling after merely 5 exchanges, collapsing in a disordered heap. Baba, I am finished. Chapter 36. Tidings of the third herbal monarch. Suddenly, in the western wing of Li Garden, as Li Zai engaged in a conversation over tea with Little Red Riding Hood regarding their ambitions, he inadvertently caught wind of a message from Li Yue, causing him to momentarily choke. Chapter 37. What course of action shall I undertake next? In the western territories of the Great Shang, carriages rolled and hooves pounded the earth as they traveled from the heavenly edict palace of the western regions to the capital of the Great Shang. 100 fully armored temple knights accompanied the procession, their figures and steeds adorned in gleaming silver armor, leaving only their eyes visible. Chapter 38. The blessings of abundant life by the shores of the Xiang Lake. Changsun Nanjiao beheld the bewildered expression of the youth beside her, seemingly grasping his thoughts, and suppressed a laugh. How naive! Following her amusement, Changsun Nanjiao regained her composure, her eyes sparkling. Chapter 39. The True Man in Truth. There exists nothing between her and me. In the chamber, Li Zai surveyed the assembled individuals, striving to defend himself. Zhang Lada responded with indifference, swiftly losing interest and turning to depart. Chapter 40. The scholar's thoughts before Li Garden. The enchanting visage of Changsun Nanjiao lingered in Li Zai's memory, resonating perpetually. A seductress. Li Zai fervently shook his head, endeavoring to dispel the distracting reveries. Chapter 41. Yan Xiaoyu in Li Garden. As twilight descended and the luminous moon ascended. In the front courtyard, Li Zai awaited with mounting anxiety, his countenance fraught with uncertainty, reminiscent of the pangs of heartbreak. Chapter 42. The confrontation upon the streets of the capital. The initial encounter between Li Zai and Yan Xiaoyu was far from amicable. At the very least, Yan Xiaoyu harbored a profound disdain for Li Zai. Undoubtedly, Li Zai reciprocated this aversion towards Yan Xiaoyu. Chapter 43. A Miracle Brotherly. I implore you to refrain from such reckless behavior in the future. You nearly startled me to the brink of death just now, Bai Wangyu remarked with a wry smile, gazing at the youth before him. Even now, the cold sweat on his back had yet to evaporate. Chapter 44. A Great Fire at Dawn. A delicate light broke upon the eastern horizon. On the stone steps, Li Zai's eyes abruptly opened, awakening with impeccable timing. As day surrendered to night, the Yin transformed into Yang, heralding the most auspicious moment for the cultivation of the flying immortal technique. Chapter 45. A Divine Phenomenon Before the Concealed Passage. Yin Kuang's demeanor turned profoundly serious as he proceeded with utmost caution, taking measured steps. In contrast, Li Zai remained motionless, refraining from pursuit. He harbored an unsettling premonition that this expedition would prove far more intricate than it initially appeared. Chapter 46. The Most Handsome. Always the senior brother within the clandestine chamber of the Yin family. Upon uncovering the location of the heavenly crafting technique, Li Zai, without a moment's hesitation, surged forward. Roaring ferociously, a diminutive figure, upon witnessing the intruder's endeavor to pilfer the treasure, launched itself into the fray as well. Chapter 47. The Scholar's Promise in the Capital. Amidst the bustling streets, during a moment of dire crisis, Bai Wangyu reemerged. It seemed as though it were a divine orchestration or perhaps a twist of destiny. For whenever Li Zai found himself ensnared in peril, the Little Red Riding Hood would manifest just in the nick of time. Chapter 48. The Temple's Dilemma in the Capital. 5 days had elapsed since the conflagration at the Yin family estate. During this span, Li Zai had remained sequestered within the confines of Li Garden. In the West Chamber, ensnared within a labyrinth of crimson threads, a pig lay enervated, its vitality waning in the midst of its ordeal. Chapter 49. A single glance, and you shall not endure 2 episodes in the Western Chamber of Li Garden, upon perceiving the murmured words of Li Zai. Bai Wangyu's gaze swiftly altered as he inquired, Brotherly, are you privy to the answer to this quandary? Chapter 50. The Visit of Murong I Shall Not Wed. Those who wish to marry may proceed. Within the imperial palace, upon receiving the tidings from beyond, the typically composed 9th Princess Murong experienced a profound transformation in her demeanor. Chapter 51. He comes, riding on a rainbow half an hour later. Murong and Mu Bai set off together in a carriage. Li Zai watched their departure, then returned to the estate while humming a melodious tune. To speak frankly, the 9th princess possessed an extraordinary beauty. Taking her as a wife would not be an unwise choice, although her physique might not align with Sister You's preferences. Outside the main hall, Bai Wangyu observed the evidently jubilant Li Zai and inquired with curiosity, What brings you such joy? I shall not disclose, Li Zai replied, striding confidently back inside. Chapter 52. Breaking the stalemate before the emperor within the imperial palace, before the Grand Feng Tian Hall. Li Zai poised himself to confront the myriad of monsters that plagued the temple, his aura intensifying in anticipation of his movements. Your Majesty, as I embark on this endeavor, I may require some assistance, and I humbly request your favor in this matter. Li Zai turned to Emperor Shang, who stood regally atop the stone steps, addressing him with the utmost reverence. Granted, the emperor responded with a solemn nod. Today, all ministers and guards within the palace shall be at your disposal. Thank you, your majesty. Li Zai expressed his heartfelt gratitude, then shifted his gaze toward the assembly within the temple, a broad smile illuminating his face. Chapter 53. A sword shocking the world before the emperor, Li Zai stood on the precipice of victory in the Divine Palace's gambling match, merely one question away from achieving triumph. The court officials observed with bated breath, their expressions a tapestry of anticipation and trepidation. This was the final question. Should he respond correctly, the great merchant dynasty would seize victory. Yet, a misstep would render their endeavors in vain. The young scion of the Li family must not waver. The officials gazed upon the youthful figure before them, their eyes brimming with encouragement and hope. In this unparalleled moment, the young man carried the aspirations of all. In that instant, he was akin to lightning. He was brilliance. He embodied a singular myth. Chapter 54. After a prolonged anticipation, the day has finally dawned before the Xuanwu Gate. The plum blossom sword immortal cleaved through the shadows with a singular stroke, parting the clouds and heralding the arrival of sunlight. The Archbishop of the Divine Palace, Lu Rongnu, clad in crimson, found herself grievously injured by the backlash of the divine decree, incapacitating her from wielding her powers once more. The envoys from the Divine Palace bore expressions of astonishment, taken aback by the revelation that beyond the palace lord and the head of the Confucian Academy, there existed others capable of dismantling the divine decree. While the Divine Palace envoys were engulfed in discomfort, the ministers of the great merchant dynasty erupted in laughter, blooming like flowers in the vernal season. At long last, someone had avenged their grievances. Chapter 55. The national hero before the Fengtiang Hall, flames ascended into the heavens, momentarily leaving all witnesses in a state of astonishment and disbelief. Li Zai surreptitiously wiped the cold perspiration from his brow, thankful that he had not met with utter failure. This is inconceivable. The envoys of the Divine Palace shook their heads in incredulity, struggling to fathom the extraordinary scene unfolding before them. What events had conspired to evoke such a blaze? After a prolonged wait, this day had finally arrived. After an extensive dream, I have at last brought it to fruition. Li Zai, observing the astonished visages of the crowd, felt a surge of jubilation envelop him as he hummed a melodic tune. Chapter 56. The national hero before the majestic Fengtiang Hall. The ministers beheld the youthful Li Zai as he was honored with the esteemed title of national hero, enveloped in unparalleled glory. However, upon comprehending the intrinsic essence of this accolade, Li Zai found scant joy in it. In essence, it was but a formal certificate granted by the state. Aside from its melodious title and pleasing aesthetics, it bore little significance, just as his striking countenance would remain unaltered irrespective of state recognition. So too was his allure undeniably inherent and eternal, unlike those who preferred. Chapter 57. The young lady, the princess, the enchantress hurry. Should any misfortune befall the princess, we shall all meet our doom upon the prince's return. In the southwestern expanse of the great merchant dynasty, a valiant cavalry surged forward, led by a general bearing a serious demeanor, compelling his men to hasten their advance toward the border. The vanishing of Princess Qingqing had plunged the entire southwestern royal household into utter disarray. To exacerbate the tumult, the southwestern king had recently been summoned back to the capital, accompanied by the heir, leaving the royal household in a state of chaos, with only the princess consort striving to uphold a semblance of order amidst the sudden upheaval. Chapter 58. I did not consume anyone, she is the siren. Within the crumbling confines of a forsaken abode, a man stormed in, accompanied by a throng of villagers, vehemently accusing the girl huddled in the corner. Indeed, I have beheld the visage of that enchantress. It is unequivocally her. At the back, a villager recognized the young maiden, his countenance suffused with rage as he declared, "It is she, the man-eating fiend. Monk, I graciously extended sustenance to you, yet you opted to rescue this demoness." The woman who had once provided nourishment to Tripitaka, upon glimpsing the girl within the dilapidated dwelling, was overcome with sorrow, lamenting. It was this Demonis who brought about my husband's untimely demise. Chapter 59. The Merchant Emperor encounters the scholar. A heart-rending lament escaped from Li Yuan, a cry that resonated deeply, evoking tears from those who listened and sorrow from all who heard it. In the apothecary, Zhang Lada wiped the perspiration from his brow. Fatigue etched upon his face as he took his leave. In the rear, nestled within the medicinal barrel, Li Zai trembled, his limbs quaking uncontrollably, as if burdened by the weight of a grievous misdeed. Following profound anguish, an overwhelming surge of spiritual energy flooded into the apothecary, both astonishing and overpowering. Without destruction, there can be no creation. Without evidence, there can be no clarity. It is through destruction that one may forge and authenticate the great path. In the Western Chamber, Bai Wanyu sensed the gravity of this moment. Chapter 60. A marriage proposal, my lord. News has reached us from the palace. His Majesty intends to orchestrate a union between the great prince and Princess Qingqing. Outside the Western Chamber, a young servant hastily approached Li Yuan, speaking with urgency. Bang! As the words echoed in the air, Li Zai, who was diligently practicing his sword amidst the intricate red thread formation, lost his composure and was propelled outward. The red thread snapped, and Li Zai collided forcefully with the wall, tumbling straight to the ground. Who? Ignoring his bruised and battered state, Li Zai sprang to his feet, incredulously inquiring, "Did you say?" Chapter 61. The demon that consumes in the illustrious capital of the Dashi Empire. The emperor's proclamation of marriage reverberated throughout the city. Much like Li Zai, the populace was taken aback by the emperor's selection of the eldest prince, the one whose presence was least felt among the four. Consequently, many who maintained amicable relations with the Southwest king flocked to visit, seeking to unravel the mystery behind this unexpected choice. After all, the eldest prince was afflicted with a leg ailment, leaving many bewildered as to why the Southwest king would acquiesce to such a union. Even if it were the emperor's desire, he could not enforce it against the will of the Southwest king. Nonetheless, the Southwest king remained unperturbed by the situation. Chapter 62. The heavenly book reopens in the capital. Under the celestial canopy of night, as demons emerged and Li Zai confronted imminent danger, Bai Wanyu made his reappearance. However, this time, even the typically unflappable elder brother of the Confucian sect exhibited a flicker of lethal intent. Behind him, Li Zai and Zhu Qingge exchanged a meaningful glance, promptly retreating 10 paces. As the frigid wind swept through the streets, Bai Wanyu's right hand appeared empty, yet the Tai sword ascended, returning to his hold. Disciples of the Confucian sect. From within the swirling black mist ahead, a demon unleashed a bone-chilling laugh, its aura of malevolence surging forth as it charged directly. Chapter 63. Rumors and whispers. Did you hear the bell tolling from the Taishua Palace last night? The following day, in the magnificent capital of Dashi, the citizens began to engage in fervent discussions about the bell chimes from the previous night, pondering whether they had indeed heard it. I did hear it. It is said that the tolling of the bell heralds the reopening of the heavenly book. The heavenly book? What is that? I am uncertain. No one has ever laid eyes upon it. It is said to be a tablet capable of unveiling the affairs of the world, possessing the remarkable ability to connect the heavens and the earth. Is it true? Can a mere stone tablet hold such power? Chapter 64. Fateful entanglement. Outside the southwestern king's residence, a monk approached, gazing intently at the royal palace ahead. After a moment's contemplation, he stepped forward and, with a demeanor steeped in respect, bowed to the 2 soldiers stationed before the palace. He spoke with courtesy. Amitabha, esteemed generals, I humbly seek an audience with the princess. Might you kindly relay my request? You wish to see the princess? One of the soldiers inquired, exchanging glances with his companion. Indeed, I possess knowledge of the whereabouts of Princess Qingqing and wish to convey this to her, the monk replied. Upon hearing this, the soldiers erupted in laughter, saying, Monk, do you truly believe? Chapter 65. Deception at the Imperial Academy. Atop the Heartburn Tower, a resplendent light radiated brilliantly. Amidst the dazzling luminescence, the heavenly book floated, emanating an overwhelming aura of righteousness that stirred the very soul. bolstered by a millennium of scholarly fortune. The power of the heavenly book had ascended to a realm where it could grasp the profound truths of the cosmos. Consequently, in this capital, the Confucian sect reigned supreme. Today, as the heavenly book was unveiled once more, various factions were ignited with fervent excitement. In this lifetime, seizing the opportunity to inscribe one's name upon the heavenly book and ascend to the fifth realm was merely a question of time. With a stroke of fortune, one might even emulate the illustrious former lord of the celestial Edict Hall, leaping into the fifth realm in a single bound. Chapter 66. Cheating? Within the Heartburn Tower, Li Zai deftly navigated past an adversary with his eloquent speech, then prudently continued his quest for the path to the next level. The 18 tiers of the Heartburn Tower had merely commenced at the initial level. To secure a chance to etch his name upon the heavenly book, he needed to ascend to the pinnacle with haste. One might ponder the architect of this crumbling edifice. It seemed unremarkable from the exterior, yet within, it exuded an aura of vastness and grandeur. Unbeknownst to Li Zai, concealed within the Heartburn Tower was a secret formation of the Confucian sect, with each stratum representing a world unto itself, profoundly enigmatic. Meanwhile, the sounds of combat resonated from various corners of the tower. Chapter 67. A gentleman does not employ his sword from behind. On the fifth level of the Heartburn Tower, tumultuous waves surged as Yin Xiaoyu relinquished his restraint, fully unleashing his formidable combat prowess. A resplendent white, divine light ascended as Yin Xiaoyu executed an ancient and esoteric technique, manifesting an astonishing pressure that roared and surged around him. Before him stood a desperate divine child, by Wang Yu, sensing the gravity of the moment, could not afford to be negligent. He drew his sword with all his cultivated might, righteous energy emanating forth to empower the ancient Tai sword, its formidable presence unwavering. With a resounding declaration, light divine edict, gentleman's aura, the two forces collided with a thunderous roar, resulting in a cataclysmic clash. Chapter 68. The scholar's leadership on the 17th level of the Heartburn Tower. Li Zai stood in silent astonishment, gazing at the desolate tableau before him, momentarily ensnared in contemplation. Is this the culmination? Is Little Red Riding Hood unscathed? What transpired? Did he vanquish that fish with a solitary sword strike? Is it lifeless? What exhilaration! After a tempest of thoughts, Li Zai turned his gaze towards the entrance of the final level, a flicker of excitement illuminating his eyes. The moment of transcending into the fifth realm and asserting dominance over all dimensions was finally upon him. With this realization, a smile gradually graced Li Zai's countenance once more. Chapter 69. Carving out solitude upon the summit of the Heartburn Tower, Li Zai contemplated the heavenly book, his heart a tempest of conflicting emotions. The scholar's leadership, has it genuinely withstood the test of over a millennium? The inaugural sword god, Li Taibai, has long departed. How is it that the Confucian leader continues to thrive? Can mere mortals truly attain such an extraordinary lifespan? How enviable indeed. Might he also possess the secret to such enduring vitality? Perhaps it would be prudent to inquire about the leader's regimen. As these reflections swirled within him, Li Zai found his thoughts adrift once more. What is that young man engaged in? Is he still immersed in his carving or not? Chapter 70. You are the savior upon the Heartburn Tower. All gazes were riveted upon Li Zai as he etched solitude. The initial uproar was cataclysmic, its impact at a zenith, yet it culminated in naught but a mere tremor, leading to an abrupt denouement. It was utterly uninspiring. Li Zai felt a pang of melancholy as he surveyed the throng below, eagerly anticipating his descent. He found himself ensnared in a quandary. Had he foreseen the celestial tome's unreliability, he would not have dared to be so audacious. Had he inadvertently unleashed a diatribe? How many had he inadvertently offended? Surely not all of them. With this realization, a cold perspiration beaded upon Li Zai's brow. Chapter 71. The frigid night dew in a secluded courtyard to the east of the Grand Academy. An elderly man and a youth engaged in a profound conversation amidst a vegetable garden, delving into topics ranging from the origins of the universe to the impending apocalypse, exchanging wisdom from two distinct realms. Confucian leader, Why was Li Taibai unable to endure for a millennium? Li Zai expressed his bewilderment, inquiring, "Is it due to the inferiority of his cultivation compared to yours?" "Not at all," Confucius replied, shaking his head. "My longevity, surpassing a millennium, is attributed to the existence of the celestial tome. Are you aware why, throughout a millennium, the tome is unveiled only once every century, yet bears the names of merely 4 individuals?" Chapter 72. Upholding etiquette beyond the Grand Academy. Li Zai discreetly made his exit, casting furtive glances to determine if anyone awaited him with ill intent. As the number of his adversaries increased, a sense of trepidation gripped him, fearing an ambush. "Cease your searching. There is no one," came the reassuring voice of Bai Wangyu, who approached and remarked, "Those who sought you have already departed." "Oh, Bai!" Li Zai exclaimed with joy upon his arrival. "Is your injury fully healed?" "After taking my medicine, I am sufficiently well," Bai Wangyu replied with a smile. Yet Yin Xiaoyu's injuries are considerably more grave. Chapter 73. Chun Shower. Outside the northern courtyard of the Grand Academy, Bai Wangyu found himself in a state of awkward indecision, torn between the urge to enter and the desire to retreat. "Ah, little Wangyu." At that moment, a tutor within the courtyard caught sight of him, their face illuminating with a welcoming smile. "Do come in." With no alternative, Bai Wangyu summoned his resolve and stepped inside. Li Zai, filled with curiosity, closely followed, eager to observe the demeanor of these etiquette-conscious tutors. "And who is this?" the tutors inside inquired, noticing Li Zai trailing behind. Chapter 74. This time I bring you something grand. As Li Zai and Bai Wangyu concluded their exploration of the western and southern courtyards of the Grand Academy, dusk began to envelop the surroundings. After witnessing the peculiarities of the 3 courtyards, Li Zai felt his perception of reality on the verge of disintegration. Not a single ordinary individual could be found within the entirety of the Grand Academy. How could such eccentricities possibly serve the purpose of educating students? Upon exiting the Grand Academy, Li Zai cast a skeptical glance at the figure of Little Red Riding Hood beside him. It is often said that those endowed with profound knowledge are prone to eccentricity, and the instructors of the Taishua Palace epitomize this phenomenon. Will Little Red Riding Hood also be susceptible to such a transformation in the future? The prospect appears rather perilous. Chapter 75. Qingqing enters the city within the northern courtyard of the Taishua Palace. A lesson on physiological hygiene by Li Zai sparked an electrifying enthusiasm throughout the institution. Students from the northern, western, and southern courtyards converged to witness the spectacle. The classroom brimmed with eager participants. Just as Li Zai was poised to unveil the anatomical diagram of female physiology for his grand finale, hurried footsteps echoed from outside. "Master F.A. Ru has arrived." Upon recognizing the esteemed visitor, the students of Taishua Palace were taken aback, promptly bowing in respectful acknowledgement and clearing a passage. Chapter 76. The arrival of Sanzong in the heart of the capital. Amidst the vibrant streets, Qingqing made her entrance, personally escorted by the heir of the southwestern king. A truly remarkable spectacle. Li Zai found himself captivated by Princess Qingqing, his expression one of utter infatuation, nearly salivating in admiration. "Brother Li," Bai Wangyu beside him gently tugged at his sleeve, urging, "Look across the street." "I refuse to take my eyes off her. I wish to behold the beauty," Li Zai replied, his gaze unwaveringly fixed on Princess Qingqing within her carriage, his smile blossoming with increasing adoration. Had it not been for the throng of people, he surely would have rushed forward. The Buddha's son is across the street. Chapter 77. Omen of the Polar Night. Instructor Li has commenced his lecture. The class has begun. Be swift. Is it exhilarating? What are your thoughts? Hurry, where you may find no seats available. Within the Taishua Palace, students hurriedly made their way to the northern courtyard classroom, eager to secure a prime position. Inside, Li Zai held a self-crafted thermos, ostentatiously blowing on it before savoring a sip of tea. After sampling the leaves, he audibly spat them back into the cup with a resounding tui. Ugh! Immediately, the students below were taken aback. Chapter 78. The mightiest turtle shell in history within the confines of the Li Garden, Sanzong beheld a youth sprawled upon the ground. Writhing in anguish, his brow adorned with beads of cold sweat, visibly uncertain of his next course of action. He was confounded by the apparent fragility of this scion of the illustrious Li family. Was it not proclaimed that the heir of the Li lineage was a disciple of the esteemed Plum Blossom, Sword Immortal? Benefactor Li, Sanzong implored with urgency. I am bereft of riches. How might I offer you recompense? Upon hearing these words, Li Zai abruptly halted his distressful antics and broke into a grin. Tishma technique. Sanzong was momentarily taken aback. However, after a brief interlude, he clasped his hands in reverence and intoned, Amitba, Master Li. Chapter 79. Capturing Demons? Are you certain? What precisely is that entity? Within the tent of the Huyan tribe in the northern desert, the chieftains of the Chisong, Baidi, and Helan tribes convened, interrogating the Huyan lord who stood before them. All 4 tribal leaders were men, with the exception of the Baidi lord. The other 3 were robust and muscular. In stark contrast, the Baidi lord bore the appearance of a scholar from the Central Plains, refined and, for reasons unknown, somewhat pallid, devoid of the fierce demeanor characteristic of northern men. Nevertheless, all present comprehended that among the 4 tribes, the most formidable was indeed this very Baidi. Chapter 80. Li Qingji Old Bai, you scoundrel. In the stillness of the night, as cries of alarm reverberated through the streets, a dark mist enveloped the surroundings. And Li Zai was unceremoniously thrust forward as a human shield. Brother Li, if you do not utilize your shell soon, you shall be crushed. After casting Li Zai into the fray, Bai Wangyu took a brief moment to issue a warning. Curse be you. Suspended in midair, Li Zai gritted his teeth and uttered an imprecation before promptly channeling his true essence, summoning a formidable aura that surged forth in response. Inaudible ripples transformed into a protective barrier that swiftly expanded around him. Chapter 81. The Stunted Tree. Upon Li Qingji's return to Li Garden, he discovered Li Zai patiently awaiting him in the front courtyard, having remained silent for the better part of the night. As dawn broke, the early rising maidens beheld the young master's return and swiftly realized that the second young master was soon to arrive. Within the confines of the estate, it was only the second young master who could evoke such trepidation in the young master. What predicament has the young master found himself in this time? Surely not. Recently, every action undertaken by the young master has brought honor to the Li family. Yet, why does he appear so apprehensive? Who can tell? Let us hasten forth. Chapter 82. Seeking instruction. Master Qingshan, I humbly request your guidance. Pray do not turn away. Master Yao, impart to me a few sword techniques. After all, the essence of martial arts leads to a singular destination. What? You have a class? That is preposterous. I have verified, and you possess no classes today. A make-up class, you say? Who do you think you are deceiving? In the northern courtyard, since the departure of Li Qingji, Li Zai has visited daily in pursuit of martial knowledge from the instructors. After several days of unyielding inquiries, Li Qingshan and Yao Guihai found themselves in a state of exasperation. Upon witnessing Li Zai's approach, they fled as though confronted by contagion. In the courtyard, observing the retreating figures of Li Qingshan and Yao Guihai, Li Zai's countenance darkened. Chapter 83. The son of the Buddha within the illustrious residence of the Grand Prince. The Prince of the Southwest made his entrance, radiating an aura of unmatched authority. The 10 martial kings of the Great Shang, each a formidable champion in their own right, were celebrated for their extraordinary strength and remarkable accomplishments. As one of these distinguished martial kings, the prowess of the Southwest Prince was indeed commendable, earning him a revered status throughout the Great Shang. Prince of the Southwest, please proceed to the main hall. Mu Yuan addressed him with utmost courtesy. The Southwest Prince acknowledged with a nod and accompanied him towards the main hall. The estate's attendants presented tea before discreetly withdrawing from the scene. Chapter 84. The strife of 2 princes within the garden of floral cultivation. Li Zai wove a tapestry of absurdities, deftly ensnaring the present son of the Buddha, nearly prompting an immediate apprenticeship. Brotherly, from whence did you acquire such tales? Bai Wangyu, regaining her composure, inquired softly. Why does it matter where I gleaned it? Lizia Raplia. What is paramount is its applicability. As he observed the young monk lost in profound thought, he murmured, Behold, This little monk stands on the cusp of enlightenment. Perhaps he shall soon emanate golden radiance and attain Buddhahood. Suddenly, as Li Zai's words resonated, a brilliant golden light enveloped the contemplative Sanzong. Chapter 85. The green-clad monk in the flower cultivation garden. Mu Qing entered, adorned in armor, a striking presence. With a subtle glance from Li Zai, Bai Wangyu rose and approached the 11th prince. Upon sensing the approach of white forgetting, Mu Qing momentarily froze, poised to speak, but was interrupted. 11th prince, Bai Wangyu greeted with courtesy. Younger master Bai, Mu Qing acknowledged, preparing to articulate her thoughts when she noticed the woman beside her and remarked, "Did young master Bai bring any silver?" He departed in haste and appeared to have no funds on him. Chapter 86. The grand wedding. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. During this brief span, the atmosphere in the capital grew increasingly peculiar. Li Zai found himself unable to restrain the 11th prince. The dialogue between the 11th prince and the king of the southwest had been rather contentious, necessitating his presence at the imperial palace. Consequently, a vehement altercation erupted between the 11th prince and Emperor Shang in the Shoan Hall. Ultimately, the 11th prince stormed out, leaving Emperor Shang in a fit of rage as he shattered the chessboard, rendering the palace servants breathless with trepidation throughout the day. Master Li, did I truly lose my composure that day? Chapter 87. Is Qingqing a demon? In the capital, the skies were shrouded in a somber gray. On what ought to have been a celebratory occasion, the heavens displayed their unkindness, with dark clouds eclipsing the sun, casting a pall over the entire city. Outside the garden, Li Zai surveyed the foreboding clouds on the horizon, a flicker of apprehension crossing his gaze. Surely, it would not rain today. He had neglected to bring an umbrella. Ahead, Sanzong ambled quietly, a smile illuminating his face, his pace quickening with each step. Li Zai and Bai Wangyu hastened to keep up, apprehensive that this diminutive monk might elude their grasp. In that moment, the small, bald-headed monk resembled a ticking time bomb. Who could foresee what might unfold? Chapter 88. Little monk, I do not consume humans within the capital. At the residence of the first prince, Fa Hai unleashed his power, the golden bowl emanating a resplendent radiance that suffused the royal palace. The luminous glow was blinding. Beneath its brilliance, all felt as though cradled by the dawn. Save for one, Princess Qingqing. Enveloped in the sacred light, Princess Qingqing quivered, her exquisite visage contorted in torment, her eyes transforming to a vivid crimson. A demon. She has become a demon. In the grand hall, upon witnessing Princess Qingqing's metamorphosis, the onlookers jolted back to reality, hastily rising and retreating, their faces a canvas of terror. Beside Emperor Shang stood the esteemed Rong. Chapter 89. The Bodhisattva, the demoness within the abode of the first prince, Fa Hai triumphed over the demon. The golden bowl unleashing a formidable force, golden waves crashing down like immense tsunamis, poised to engulf the world. In this moment of peril, Sanzong formed a seal with his hands. In an instant, the golden mark upon his forehead ignited with a crimson glow, countering the formidable power of the golden bowl. What is this? Fa Hai's expression tightened as he beheld the scene. The power of the 5 realms. His master had sealed a fragment of the Buddha's essence within Sanzong. Bodhi, 3 degrees. Amidst the tumultuous waves, Sanzong resolutely unsealed the mark upon his forehead, channeling the essence of the Buddha. Chapter 90. Blood battle on a rainy night in the heart of the capital. A torrential downpour cascaded from the heavens, accompanied by the thunderous roars of nature. Undeterred by the deluge, the monk clad in azure robes advanced with purpose, cradling the golden bowl, impervious to the rain's relentless assault. The anguish of all beings weighed heavily upon him. Fa Hai traversed the chaos, remaining unblemished by the world's impurities. His gait was both determined and weighty, each step sending droplets soaring. Yet, curiously, the monk's footwear remained untouched by moisture. Within the golden bowl, luminous rays danced. Reminiscent of an ocean of gold, the ancient sacred artifact of the Buddhist sect had been summoned once more to vanquish demons and monstrosities, reaffirming its divine prowess. Amitabha. Chapter 91. The demon monk before the academy. Fa Hai obstructed the path, and Bai Wangyu, drenched in blood, found it insurmountable to proceed. Blood stained the blade, signifying the apparent conclusion of the Confucian scholar's odyssey. The farewell admonitions resonated vividly in his memory, yet a flicker of a smile adorned Bai Wangyu's fatigued countenance. In this lifetime, he harbors no regrets. For reasons unknown, the enchanting silhouette of Li Yuan momentarily flitted through his mind, only to dissipate in an instant. Forbidden technique. Bai Wangyu positioned his sword before him as his vital energy surged through his veins, and in that ephemeral moment, a torrent of blood erupted forth. Chapter 92. 3 moves. The rainy night drags on endlessly. A youthful figure hurries through the capital streets, racing towards the academy. Little Red Riding Hood, may you remain unharmed. Anxiety etches itself onto Li Zai's features as he quickens his pace. Raindrops cascade behind him, splattering water as the prolonged night appears to lack an end. But, his footsteps strike the water's surface with urgency, echoing the rapid rhythm of his heart, a tumultuous blend of concern and impatience. Before the academy. Chapter 93. Signs of a harsh winter on this rain-soaked evening, before a modest courtyard to the east of the academy. Li Zai resolutely invokes the singular promise granted by the Confucian leader. Creak. The door of the wooden house swings open, revealing Kong Qiu beneath the eaves, who observes the drenched youth outside and calmly remarks, "Bring him inside." "Thank you, Confucian leader." With the leader's acquiescence, Li Zai's demeanor shifts to one of profound reverence as he carries Little Red Riding Hood into the courtyard. Outside, four esteemed Confucian figures silently withdraw. Chapter 94. The Celestial Maiden in the capital. Nearly a month has passed since that prolonged night. Numerous events have unfolded within the city. The 11th Prince Mu Qing and the Rakshasa King Tao Yaoyao faced repercussions for their previous misdeeds. However, the penalties were lenient, consisting solely of fines and house arrest. The most severe impact was felt by the first Prince Mu Yuan, whose proposed alliance with the southwestern prince's residence could have considerably enhanced his power, potentially securing him the esteemed title of Crown Prince. Yet, with the collapse of this alliance, all aspirations have evaporated into mere illusions. The southwestern prince's residence also endures the weight of this aftermath. Chapter 95. The 8 tribes of the northern desert in the northern desert. At the confluence of the 8 tribes, a hastily constructed encampment stands, vigilantly guarded by watchful soldiers. Within the confines of the tent, all the lords of the 8 tribes have convened, with the notable absence of the Dantai clan. The Dantai chieftain has long been afflicted by a severe illness, a fact well acknowledged. Hence the representation of the Dantai clan falls to the celestial maiden, Dantai Jingwei. Despite being the sole female among the lords, none dare to underestimate her formidable presence. During the chieftain's ailment, the Dantai clan not only maintained its stability, but emerged even more robust. Chapter 96. Zhu Zhu as anticipated. The accord for a southern advance among the 8 tribes remains elusive. Dantai Jingwei remains undeterred, acutely aware that swaying the lords of the 7 clans is no trivial endeavor, necessitating additional time and opportunity. Furthermore, with the winter's frosty embrace upon them, the conditions are ill-suited for warfare, should a southern campaign be contemplated. It must be deferred until the following year when the meadows flourish and resources are plentiful. She has endured for countless years. What is yet another moment to her? This woman is nothing short of a madwoman. Before the tent, Du Kuyan observed the retreating silhouette of Dantai Jingwei, speaking softly. Chapter 97. The Depths of Despair. Li Zai in the main hall of the Li residence. 2 women exchanged glances. Both possessed remarkable beauty. One emanated a gentle grace, while the other radiated fierce intensity. It is worth noting that although Li Youwei's demeanor appeared less amiable than it truly was, her looks and poise undeniably reflected that of a refined lady, exuding warmth and purity. In contrast, the woman who professed to be Li Zai's betrothed, Zhu Zhu, was akin to a thorny rose, her brilliance seemingly capable of inflicting wounds upon those who dared to approach. Chapter 98. Even heaven is unaware in Li Garden. Beneath the moon's silvery glow, Li Zai practiced his swordplay, with Zhu Zhu, draped in a crimson cloak, quietly by his side. Under the luminous moonlight, she resembled a precious gem, her presence as chilling as the sword's aura. Zhu Zhu appeared perpetually engrossed in folding paper cranes, one after another. These lifelike paper birds, ablaze with fiery red, infused the frigid night with a touch of warmth. A faint, elusive crimson glow began to emanate from Li Zai. So subtle, it was nearly imperceptible to the naked eye. As the velocity of his swordplay heightened, a steady stream of spiritual energy surged forth from the heavens, silently merging with his essence. Chapter 99. To perish in calamity in the capital, the festive season had arrived. A heavy blanket of snow enveloped the city, yet could not diminish the celebratory spirit within. Esteemed sword enthusiast, revered master, I wish you a happy new year. Within the inner courtyard of the Li residence, during the reunion dinner, Li Zai, accompanied by a group of younger relatives, respectfully bowed to the two eldest members of the household. Zhang Lada and Qin Aina exchanged glances, their expressions revealing a profound sense of satisfaction. Today, let your spirits ascend. Indulge in a few more cups. On this rare occasion of gathering, Zhang Lada's spirits were elevated as he commenced pouring himself a drink. Chapter 100. I yearn to transform into a stone bridge in Li Garden. On the inaugural day of a new year, Li Zai and Little Red Riding Hood traversed the capital, paying homage to all the instructors and masters of the Grand Academy. I find myself utterly fatigued. After concluding their rounds, Li Zai sank into the carriage, feeling as though his back might shatter from exhaustion. He had accomplished a lifetime's worth of salutations in just one day. Beside him, Bai Wangyu seemed ensnared in contemplation, slowly allowing her eyes to flutter shut. As the carriage glided down the street towards Li Garden, an unsettling aura suddenly cast its shadow over the capital.